Crazy how many times it's just such a little piece of perfection. It's like just such an organized, specific moment, like the point of a pen when they land those things.
Super satisfying to watch. It's got to feel incredible.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Yes. He looks a little bit like your assistant that came in today too.
Oh yeah, he does look a little bit like Greg. You're right. They have a resemblance.
He looks a little bit like Greg, dude.
Yeah, and they're friends, so that's interesting. But
yeah, that baby, God, I would have loved to have been her son or been, or just had a chance. Yeah, even I'm glad that, I'm happy that she has a baby.
Well, she's got that menagerie of animals like Mona, her pit bull Ridgeback mix. I love. I have a close relationship to her Great Dane Frank.
Oh, let me see that.
Like right now, I don't have a dog. Mm-hmm. So a little while ago, I was like, I need some dog time. So I went over there, and he thinks he's a puppy, and he crawled up on me on the couch. And that's a different one. Frank's gray, but
that one's mixed.
There he is. That's probably Frank. And and I woke up at 2 a.m. She had covered us with a blanket on the sofa, and Frank was breathing into my face.
Oh,
and it was a moment. But I love Great Danes because they think they're little dogs, but they're giant dogs. So anyway, never a dull moment at Casa de Cummings.
No, she's always had excitement, and she definitely will free an animal if there's even, she'll release a damn animal from anything.
Oh, if she hears that there's a dog running around in the street, or I think this is right. Check me on this. We'll have to ask her. But a while back, I think that she was trying to rescue a giraffe. You know, you get these wealthy people that have exotic animals. They want a giraffe or an elephant or something. So she'll drop everything and go try and rescue a giraffe. Totally.
She's a real animal lover. She's definitely who's the guy, William Wordsworth or whatever? Mm-hmm. Who had the animal movie, Dr. Dolittle? She's like the female Dr. Dolittle.
That's right, can talk to the animals.
Yeah. I would love to see her do a show just for animals, even like a live performance just for animals, and see how it goes. But yeah, she'll pet anything. But I'm glad she's got that beautiful baby over there. Yeah. Andrew Huberman, good to see you, dude.
Yeah, great to meet you in person finally. We've corresponded a little bit, but
you too, man.
I'm a big fan. And I heard your name mentioned at the inauguration of the President of the United States, and I went, this is wild, worlds colliding, right? I think Dana White mentioned Joe Rogan and you at the inauguration of the most powerful person in the world. And who else? I'm sorry?
The Nelk Boys. Well, he mentioned us and the Nelk Boys, and then he mentioned and the most powerful person, Joe Rogan. We definitely were like just some satellites in the orbit, but it was really sweet of him. I mean, I think you catch Dana White at 2 a.m., and he'll drop some different names and stuff. But that was crazy when that happened. I remember my ex-girlfriend's mom just texted me like, they just mentioned you on the inauguration address or something, and I was like, what is going on that podcasting has become this thing? Is just such a part of the universe, what do you think it is? What do you think it is? Because you may even have more of a scientific look at it. Why is podcasting it's as common as like somebody saying the New York Times 5 years ago?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about this. First of all, it's interesting that we looked at skateboarding earlier. I've been lucky enough to get in on some things in the early phase, not the very earliest, but the early phase when things were kind of small and there wasn't a lot of money at first, and then things kind of blow up. When I was younger, I got into skateboarding. Every kid in my town played soccer, swam. I got really excited about skateboarding when it was kind of at a low point in terms of there weren't a lot of kids skateboarding. It had gone through a phase of popularity, then it had died in the early 90s.
What town was that you're in?
I grew up in the South Bay area. So this is what now is known as South Palo Alto before the internet.
Oh, yeah.
So, we worked hard when we were in high school to get a skate park put in. There weren't many skate parks. It was really small. We used to take the 7F bus up to San Francisco, the famed Embarcadero or EMB crowd. This is where people like Rob Dyrdek would show up. Back then, he didn't have his show. Actually, the photographer for my podcast, my Playback, was taking photos of all those guys. A lot of those guys now went on to have, Rob Dyrdek's famous, has his own show, Ridiculousness, and has done a bunch of other things. Robin Big. Tony Hawk, of course, has lasted through all the peaks and valleys of skateboarding.
Pretty impressive.
So back then it was really small. I was going to contests where I met Frank Hawk, Tony's dad, was kind of running it a little bit like a baseball league.
Frank Hawk.
Frank and Nancy Hawk. I'll tell you a funny story, actually. When I was 14, I went to a contest at the Linda Vista Boys Club out in the middle of nowhere. And when the contest ended, I was 14 when the contest ended. Frank came around and asked me and this kid Billy Waldman, who was like they called him the Demon Child. He's kind of a wild one, and he was my friend. If you put Billy Waldman Demon Child, he'll show up. You'll see it written in his face. Watch this. Ready? Look, that's what a demon child looks like.
Oh,
he was a good kid, but in any case, what ended up happening was Frank was like, "Hey, where are you guys going?" And we're like, well, we don't know. I was going to take the bus to Lancaster, see my friend Joe Rickerbosch, and somehow get home. And he was like, no, you guys can't do that. He was like a real protective dad. So he and Nancy Hawk took me in. I got to stay in Tony Hawk's bedroom that night with all the trophies everywhere. And they took me out to dinner. And I'll never forget, and this is how I got back in touch with Tony in recent years, they had black coffee after dinner at like 8 p.m. And I'd never seen that. So a few years ago on Instagram, I wrote to Tony and said, hey, your parents took me in when I was a little bit stranded. And if you don't believe me, they drink coffee at 8:30 p.m. after dinner. And he wrote back and he goes, no way, you're the only way to know that is to actually have a meal with them. So anyway, skateboarding back then, I got out of it. I wasn't very good. Okay. I got put on a team out of sympathy. I tried, but I kept getting hurt.
You say a team, what do you mean? And
Sponsored.
I think the Dutch drink coffee late at night. Bring that up real quick. Who's drinking coffee very late at night? Or see if Tony Hawk is Amsterdamian, if he's an Amsterdamian guy. I believe he looks Amsterdamian to me.
Tony is like 6'5".
I know the Dutch are tall.
And his son is tall as well. You couldn't pick a more perfect last name for a professional skateboarder, right?
Well, that's another reason I believe that he's in addition to his talent, which has helped him stand the test of time, is such a moniker. There's nothing like that. Tony Hawk, Tony is the most relatable name in the world. And then just like, who don't want to be that? Tony Hawk is a predominantly British Isles descent. Oh, damn. I was hoping we'd get him in Amsterdam. All right. That's all good. But yeah, so what were you saying, brother? Sorry.
Yeah, no. So got into that early and then got hurt.
But you got put on a team, you said?
Yeah. So I got sponsored by a company called Thunder Truck Spitfire Wheels. They put me on out of sympathy. I'm still friends with the team manager from back then, and he'll tell you it was out of sympathy. But I got to see a lot of friends turn pro, start companies. Danny Way and Colin McKay started DC.
Oh, yeah.
BDC, which eventually sold to Quicksilver. They did that also with Ken Block, who was a rally car driver, unfortunately passed away a few years ago. He was the guy that do Gymkhana, all the driving around cities, You haven't seen Gymkhana in San Francisco? Oh, man, we're bringing back all the stuff.
No, this is awesome. Pull this up.
So if you look at San Francisco and you say Ken Block, so Ken unfortunately died in this snowmobile accident a few years ago, but this on YouTube is unbelievable. I would go to the middle of it to really get a sense of.
And so they would drive around.
They basically they shut down big segments of the city. Mm-hmm. So that's down at the piers. And then all this, 119 million views, all this aerial footage, why not just jump between two streets in San Francisco?
Well, hell yeah. So that was,
my friend Mike Blayback was the one photographing all this for DC. So DC was initially skateboarding. Danny and Colin and Danny's older brother, Damon, started DC. It has actually stood for something called Drawers Clothing, but DC, Danny Colin.
And DC Shoes, right?
DC Shoes. And then they went snowboarding, rally car, BMX, motocross, Monster, Monster, Rockstar, all that was born out of essentially skateboarding and BMX early on. Then X Games took off. So it's kind of like how, in the 90s, skateboarding was really small. Then it blew up. Then it dies a little bit and it keeps coming back. Now it's in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I got into neuroscience, because that's my official job. I'm a professor of neuroscience up at Stanford. I don't currently run my lab anymore. I tooled that down in 2023 so I could focus more on the podcast, but I still teach medical students, graduate students, and undergraduates.
Okay, so you're still practicing?
Yes. Yeah, and I ran a lab for more than a decade and really got into science when I was in college. I decided, listen, I'm not going to become a professional skateboarder, not a musician. I got to do something with my life. I got into biology and psychology, and I started working in a lab. And so even when I got into neuroscience, it was early. There was no such thing called a neuroscience degree or a neuroscientist. There was biology, there was genetics, but there wasn't something official. Then came the decade of the brain, and now neuroscience is everywhere.
Yeah, you hear about it a lot.
Yeah. So
but you didn't hear about it 10 years ago for sure.
You did not. And it really drew from people from different fields. And then now we have a better, not complete, but we could talk about a better understanding of lots of different things, memory, addiction, et cetera. When I got into podcasting, I started my podcast in 2021. As we were talking about before, it was just, small closet. I was living in Topanga, kind of self-appointed sabbatical. It was the pandemic. Everything
you had
was
a
shut
dog.
down.
You had a
and my
dog,
bulldog mastiff Costello.
And he passed away at some point?
2021, I had to put him down. I had to do it myself.
No.
I at home, I had them come. He hated the vet. You know, I mean, a bulldog's an amazing animal. The contract between a bulldog and owner is very simple.
Yeah.
They will die for you, and you can feel that. They will die for you. But if your life is not on the line, they're not doing shit at all.
Yeah.
That's the contract.
They will die for you. They also take a
There
nap.
he is.
They will also take a nap for you.
They will take a nap for you. So he used to just snore. You can hear him snoring in our early episodes and fart, and you know that's what they do. But but if there was a threat, they don't hesitate. You know,
Shit's
he was
everywhere.
skunked something like 27 times because they don't learn.
He was stung by bees?
No, skunked.
Oh, by skunks.
Yeah, they always say there are two kinds of dogs: dogs that get skunked once, and then all the other kinds of dogs. But in any case, we started the podcast, and we weren't thinking about, oh, we're gonna make money with this, or it'll be a big podcast. Sat down, put up a couple cameras, and me and my what I now call my producer, but my friend Rob Moore, just did that. And Mike Blayback from DC, because I knew people from skateboarding, he took the photos. And then what happened between 2021 and 2025 is you all, right? Thanks in large part to Joe, right? We could talk about, I have theories about why Joe is the king of podcasting and the biggest media channel on the planet, not just podcasting. What happened was people wanted to hear conversation where it's not scripted and where the ads and commercials are things that people actually use.
Right.
You know, and it went from this little niche community of comedians and people that like to talk about UFC to, Lex Friedman was the one that inspired me to start a podcast. So he was my kind of my brother in crime in terms
Podcast
of
Eskimo or whatever they call
because
it.
he is an academic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he has a PhD. A lot of people don't know this, but it's Dr. Lex Friedman. So he's not a medical doctor, but he has a PhD. And he was the AI computer science guy. And I was the neuroscience guy, but then I'm also very interested in health and fitness.
But you guys didn't podcast together.
No, we've done a few, but
Right, a few episodes together, but you
we
don't
were
have
kind of the science podcast.
Yeah, right. Oh, for sure.
And then it just, the comedians led the way, right? You, Joe,
Mark Maron.
And then it just kind of
Pete Holmes. Pete Holmes was a big one early. Remember, Pete Holmes was before everybody.
Yeah,
Pete Holmes was a very early podcast. But no, it's definitely gotten where I think it's nice not having people are like, sometimes I'll see things people seem like, oh, this group, now you're working with this group or you're working with this group or you've been like infiltrated by this country or this idea. It's like, no, I don't work for anybody. It's just, I try my best, and
oh, you do an amazing job because it's pure. So the parallels I was setting up with skateboarding and neuroscience and then this, I realized at some point, and I'll get accused of name dropping, but I'm very blessed to be very close friends with Rick Rubin. I spent a lot of time with Rick, either here when he's in the States or
fascinating
abroad.
gentleman. Rick Rubin is I know him most. He's a music producer.
Yep, music producer. He's also produced comedy. He worked with Andrew Dice Clay, and he has great stories about that.
Oh, I bet he does.
And so what's interesting is I talked to Rick
Dicing.
about this. I was like, why is podcasting experiencing this surge? The question you asked. And he said, and this is kind of how Rick talks. He actually talks like this. He's like, because it's real. People, when something's early, they're not thinking about how it's going to be received. You're not thinking about whether or not your corporate sponsors are going to be happy. This is why Rick, remember, Rick produced
Beastie Boys,
LL Cool J, Beastie Boys, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Adele, Kanye. He's doing classical music stuff now, country, and he tends to work with people at the beginning and then not necessarily again, maybe on a song or two. And I asked him why, and he's like, because at the beginning, they're in what Josh Waitzkin, the great chess player, has described as the pre-consciousness phase of creativity. You're not trying to defend a title. You're not trying to defend a title. You're not thinking about how it's going to be received because you really have nothing to compare it to.
you have nothing to lose.
Yeah, listen, when Chris Cole 360 flipped down Wallenberg, someone was filming it, right? But after he did that, I'm sure that he thought about, God, like how do I like supersede that the next time? But when it's the next big thing, you're just thinking about the next thing. And there's something really beautiful to that. And that's what people tend to gravitate toward, whether or not it's media, podcasting, skateboarding, motocross, I don't care what it is. We can feel when something's real. In fact, Rick has this great saying, and I love it because One time I saw this whole thing in the media related to somebody I knew, and it turned out that their whole company was just a complete sham. At least that's what the media was claiming. And he said to me, he goes, "It's all lies." And I said, "Yeah, apparently it's all lies." And he said, No. Everything is made up. He said, "There's only two things that are true. Nature, like the laws of chemistry, biology, physics, and professional wrestling." He said, because everyone knows professional wrestling's made up.
Right.
And Rick watches 12 hours a week of professional wrestling.
Oh my God.
And when I go and see him and we watch professional wrestling, I'm like, why do you watch so much professional wrestling? And he said, it relaxes me. And also you can see all the theater of life there. And he also likes that people don't actually get hurt. But you're also wondering, wait, was that really part of the act?
Yeah.
And when you look at politics or you look at the world, a lot of it's made up. Like Bitcoin's on a run today. Everyone's excited. It broke 109 or 110. I mean, great, but Bitcoin's made up.
Right.
I mean, its value is dependent on people's kind of perceived value of it, right? And so he's right. Everything basically is made up. And so when you capture something that's real to a person,
right,
like a song and the way they sing it, and they're not comparing it to the way they sang it last time, they're not thinking about whether or not their tour is bigger than the other big tour that's out there. There's something that I think really resonates with people, and we just go, wow, like that's, I see it as like that's the human spirit in action. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's like seeing a duck, like a little duck try to learn to fly or whatever, That's the funnest part. Once you see a duck flying, you're like, oh, it's fine. It can fly. That's great or whatever. Looks cool, still beautiful. But seeing that duck give those tries and take that shot out of the nest, whatever, that's kind of like the funnest part,
Well, and I think that's the beauty of childhood, right? Is everything's new.
Oh yeah.
This is actually an interesting segue to dopamine because, dopamine is triggered by a bunch of things, but mostly by anticipation of something.
Okay.
Right?
So let me think about that. So dopamine is, when people say dopamine, because you hear it all the time, right?
Dopamine hits dopamine.
Right. You hear about dopamine or you're getting dopamine out of that. So what is it? It's something that's in your body naturally.
Okay. So,
and where is it hidden in your body? Behind your ears?
Yeah, basically. So real quick lesson in dopamine. Dopamine's a neurochemical. Some people call it neurotransmitter, neuromodulator. Let's just say it's a chemical.
Okay, it's a chemical. So it's a liquid.
Basically it's released from neurons. Neurons are nerve cells. And it's going to bind to it's going to park in a parking spot we call a receptor on the next nerve cell and trigger the activity of that nerve cell. Nerve cells communicate through electricity and chemicals. The chemicals stimulate electricity.
Okay.
And neurons can make the next neuron more active. They can make the next neuron less active. Ooh. So this is important. In fact, a good kind of mechanical example is if you flex your bicep, you are preventing the neurons that flex your tricep. They are antagonistic muscles.
Got it.
And as just kind of a parallel where we can get to, when you, for instance, smell something you like, it's what's called an appetitive response. It's kind of appetite. That inhibits the repulsion response. When you smell vomit or something really putrid, you tend to retract, and it tends to shut down at the same time the circuits that would bring you closer to something. So every circuit in the brain is like that. There's a push and a pull, an accelerator and a brake.
And if you do one, it limits the other.
Yeah, think of it like a seesaw. One goes up, the other goes down.
Got it.
Everything from if you step on a pin, you move your foot up, and guess what? What happens? Your other leg automatically extends.
Yeah.
Okay, this is called the monosynaptic stretch reflex. If you touch a fish on the side, there's a big old neuron, giant neuron called the Mauthner neuron. And what does the fish do? It heads in the opposite direction. This is just these circuits have been selected for because the dumb fish that went toward the thing that touched it probably got eaten. So all these responses are hardwired responses. This chemical dopamine exists in a couple different places in your brain. It has several roles. The most important ones to know about are that it's involved in generating movement. People with Parkinson's lose the neurons that create dopamine in an area called the substantia nigra. If you were to cut open a human brain, you'd see two dark areas at the bottom of the brain. And in Latin, nigra, dark, black, is down at the bottom of the brain. And those are the neurons that degenerate. And there's a picture of it, but maybe we can find, it's really impressive. You can see it even without a microscope. If you just say, I don't know if you said like actual brain tissue or something. There you go. Look, so see that first one? Look at that. probably without any staining. You're just looking at the brain with no microscope. In Parkinson's, those degenerate. You can see it on the right. And what happens is so dopamine is critical for movement. And it's important to keep that in mind because the other thing that dopamine does is it's involved in a set of brain circuits that are involved in motivation. So if you think about any animal, human, dog, rat, cat, monkey, bat, that animal has 3 choices for movement. You can move towards something, you can stay still, or you can move backward.
Right.
Dopamine is involved in motivation, not reward. So when you, like what's something that you really enjoy doing?
Making quesadillas.
Making quesadillas. When you get the ingredients and you put them out, your dopamine is starting to rise.
Yeah, I'm feeling it.
If you're somebody who likes gambling, it's on the way to Vegas. You're walking in, you're getting your chips. It's the feel of the chips. The dopamine's going up. Okay, this is a hardwired set of circuits that were designed to have us do things that were adaptive. So dopamine starts to rise in anticipation of food when we're hungry, cold when we're hot, heat when we're cold, sex when we're horny, right? And it's going to be involved in anything that we think is going to bring a feeling or a resource.
So a lot of dopamine is based on perception?
Absolutely. You nailed it.
Wow.
In fact, whether or not we're talking about Bitcoin, US dollars, likes on Instagram or X, followers, views, or any of that, the currency is dopamine.
Got it.
There's one currency of motivation. So dopamine is about wanting and craving, not about having. Then something happens. You make the quesadilla.
Okay, hold on. Let me slow it down just real quick, Andrew, so that because sometimes it's hard for me, so I know it might be hard for some of our listeners. But so the dopamine is based on the motivation. So it's not about like the fact that when I'm sitting there and I'm making my quesadilla, like that's the dopamine is like knowing that I'm gonna get the quesadilla soon. That's dopamine. But then when I actually get the quesadilla, what?
Okay, so it depends on the quesadilla. Let's go with 3 different scenarios.
Okay.
And we could change out quesadilla here for jackpot at the
casino
blackjack table,
sex,
winning a UFC fight, or winning the bet on the UFC fight,
being nervous about asking a girl out and then actually doing it.
Comedy when you move to crowd work and you're like, this feels like I'm out on a tightrope.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So any of those things, anything where there's a potential payoff, then something happens. Let's use the quesadilla example because it's straightforward. You have the quesadilla, and it's pretty good. Tastes like the quesadilla you usually make. Okay, what happens? Your dopamine starts dropping a little bit.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but you're okay. Yeah, it starts dropping. Let's say, just by way of example, you eat 4 quesadillas. Each time, it's going to be a little bit less dopamine from the actual eating of the quesadilla.
Yeah, the second quesadilla, you can barely even taste it sometimes.
Let's say you bite into the quesadilla and it's like, this tastes weird. Like there's something off here. Dopamine plummets. So how much dopamine you get depends on the anticipation minus what you actually get, something called reward prediction error. But the language doesn't really matter. That's a bunch of nerd speak for when an experience is worse than you expected, your dopamine drops below where it started.
Wow.
When an experience is better than you expected, surprise, it's way above where you started. And it stays up there for a while. So the dopamine system loves surprise. Now, all of this is related to learning. This is an ancient system designed for you to learn where are the payoffs? Where's the water? Where's the food? Where are the mates? Where's the money? Where's the resources? These are ancient circuits that we are doing non-ancient things with. And so, for instance, if you do comedy tours, right? When you do your comedy tours and like you really nail it one night, like really nail it. It does 2 things. It raises your baseline level of dopamine. So the next time you go out, you have confidence, right? You're still feeling that. But it also raises the threshold for dopamine, right? Now it's harder to get dopamine. You can't have the same experiences that you had prior to that really killer night and get the same amount of dopamine that you used to.
It's officially the best time of the year for hoops fans. Playoff drama, buzzer beaters, and the chaos we live for. And if you're done just watching and ready to actually win some cash, you got to check out Pick 6 from DraftKings. Nobody's dropping better payouts than Pick 6. Hit 6 picks, and that's 25 times your cash. And if you beat your competition, you could be looking at a 500x bag in your pocket. It's super simple. Select your picks, track your score, and go for those big time prizes. No gimmicks, just straight up fun. Pick Six is live in most states like Missouri, Cali, Texas, Georgia, and plenty more. For a couple of my picks, I'm rocking with that SGA and more than 30.5 points. I'm also going to roll with Nas Reed, that LSU dog, and less than 6 rebounds. So yeah, don't settle for weak payouts. Make your picks with Pick Six from DraftKings and let your basketball brain pay off. New to DraftKings Pick Six, new customers toss in just $5 on your first entry, and you'll get a $50 in bonus picks instantly. The playoffs are on, so why not take a shot at making a little money while you're watching? Download the DraftKings Pick Six app right now and use code Theo. That's code Theo to play $5 and get $50 in bonus picks. Better payouts, bigger wins only on Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours. What happens when your health becomes the punchline? It's a good question. With the revelations of seed oils and brain fog and toxins, pollutants, the things that we're ingesting that we didn't even know. The modern world is screwing with our health at the cellular level, leading to digestive issues, and more stress, exhaust, everything. But here's the thing. You don't have to settle for feeling like garbage 24/7. Armra Colostrum is nature's original health hack, packed with over 400 bioactive nutrients that fortify gut integrity, strengthen immunity, revitalize hair growth, fuel stamina, elevate focus, and help you function like a human again. Armra Colostrum. I take it, I put it into my smoothie. I like to make a nice smoothie. We've worked out a special offer for our audience. Receive 15% off your first order. Go to tryarmra.com/Theo. That's TRYARMRA.com/THEO. Or enter Theo to get 15% off your first order. That's TRYARMRA.com/THEO. Armra Colostrum. Nothing has ever made me feel more American than rolling on over to Sonic. And now Sonic is taking a stand against mediocre cheeseburgers by proclaiming the Sonic Smasher, the new Smashinal cheeseburger of America. And they want people across the country to experience a better burger, hand smashed and made to order. The Sonic Smasher features Angus beef patties, seasoned and seared to perfection with crispy edges and a juicy center, layered with melty American cheese, a creamy, tangy signature smasher sauce, crinkle-cut pickles, and diced onions, all served on a soft potato bun. Head to Sonic to try the Sonic Smasher. Live free, eat Sonic.
And when you think about dopamine, the most important thing to think about is how quickly does it go up, how quickly and how far does it go down? Because every time it goes up, it goes down. Why? Because remember earlier we were saying everything is like a seesaw. If you feel motivated, there is, and this is so important for people to understand, especially people with compulsions, addictions, and this kind of thing, the better it feels, the lower you're going to feel afterwards, and the longer it will take you to get back to baseline. So the drug of all drugs for this, to really nail home dopamine as a concept.
Sex. Or what? Food.
Well, behaviorally, sex. You're right. Okay. So, and people have behavior addictions, process addictions. Methamphetamine.
Yeah.
If you were going to look at what creates the biggest rise in dopamine the fastest, so it's dopamine over time, okay? Because listen, when you write jokes, or, when I'm, reading papers, I love reading science papers. I'm like mining for papers. Every once in a while, I'll take a little break, and I'm super into cephalopods, octopuses. I'm building an octopus tank at home right now. Ooh. So that's kind of my indulgence is octopus. It's a little bit of dopamine.
Right.
Methamphetamine is a huge rapid increase in dopamine. Then what happens?
How much do we get off that? Bring it up real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to see what is
so it's how fast it occurs. It occurs within minutes. This is why crack cocaine was so much more addictive than snorted cocaine, right? It was the speed with which it hits the system.
How much dopamine does an activity release?
Yep.
Baseline is 100%. Food is 150%. So an 50% increase. Video games, 175%. Sex, 200.
I disagree with sex, by the way. I think it depends on, if you're, and people should know this, if you live with somebody and you guys are having sex a lot and you've known each other a long time, there's a lot of the reason why people are like looking for novelty in their relationship, et cetera. I'm not trying to be salacious here, but new sexual partner is probably about 400, 500%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think most people would not dispute that.
Cocaine goes to 450%. Amphetamine, 1,000%. Methamphetamine, 1,300%.
That methyl group increases the speed. That speed increases dopamine.
So it's almost the same. It could potentially almost be kind of the same, but the speed at which it happens is so much greater that it intensifies it so much.
That's right. And remember, the brain is thinking in terms of approach, pause, or retract. So when there's a ton of dopamine, listen, anyone on cocaine or methamphetamine, everything's a good idea to them.
Oh, yeah, anything.
Right.
Oh, God.
And then you think about cannabis. Cannabis has its own discussion, its own effects, but very different system and tends to make people pretty happy with right where they are. The opioids tends to make people overly happy with right where they are. They tend to be amotivated, not motivated. So dopamine, in this context, what happens is then dopamine drops below baseline after a drug or porn, or even, if somebody's, let's say they make the huge mistake of like going outside their marriage to a prostitute or something. It's the anticipation, the fear, the excitement, boom, then it drops below baseline. And now here's the real rub. In order to get back to baseline, most people, when they're in that trough, what do? They use more. But each time they use, while they're in that trough, when dopamine is low, this is the key thing. When dopamine is low, no matter how much you do of that substance, no matter how much you engage in that behavior, that dopamine is going to have less and less of an effect, and it's not even going to get you above baseline.
Wow.
You have to wait. The period of abstinence is when these circuits return to normal. And with the exception of alcohol, where people can die from rapid withdrawal, this is why every addiction recovery program has a period of abstinence. They don't tell you to kind of taper off cocaine.
Right.
They're like, listen, this has got to stop. And then when people relapse, the problem is they get, no pun intended, they get a bump, but that dopamine level is not where it used to be. And they're constantly, quote unquote, chasing the dragon or whatever you want to call it. So, these dopamine circuits evolved for a good reason, to drive us toward adaptive behaviors. But listen, I have friends in the tech sector, in the finance sector. You see this in the finance guys. It's often finance guys. They're doing Adderall, they're day trading, they're night trading. Their friends are making a ton of money. And we also have the social comparison thing. So I'm not going to say that social media hijacks all of this, but let's just say, and I love social media. I'm on Instagram and X. I teach there. I learn there. Love your content. Love Segura's content. Rogan. I'm learning there. Tim Dillon, right? Like I love it.
Yeah.
But there are elements of this where if you find yourself on social media, but you're kind of like, what am I doing here? Like this is like nothing's happening here. You are in a dopamine trough.
You're in a trough.
So
you've already gotten your high.
You've gotten it. And we hear dopamine hits. If it were really dopamine hits, you'd be going, whoa, yeah, amazing, cool.
Right.
No, that happens now and again. But what's happening is the threshold for what really draws you in is getting higher and higher.
Which goes to show why when it comes sometimes to like sex addiction and pornography addiction, that people's, what the kink that they need or the thing they need to see gets more out there. Because they have to, just to even get back to the baseline, they have to, they've got to find more. They need a higher arc.
Definitely.
I had a couple questions. Sorry.
No.
And say where you're at. Can you distill dopamine? Like, is it manufacturable dopamine?
There are things, yes. So there are things that are precursors to dopamine and things that stimulate the release of dopamine. So things that stimulate the release of dopamine, the amino acid L-tyrosine.
Okay.
It's found in hard cheeses like Parmesan cheese, believe it or not. Some people think they're a little bit addicted to cheese in some ways.
Oh, they do?
Some people think that. Yeah. It's L-tyrosine is a supplement as well.
Ooh, L-tyrosine. He sounds like he's from Rome, huh?
There's a very interesting hairy little bean. No joke. This is a hairy little bean called Mucuna prurines.
He's going to say something
Mucuna prurines.
Mucuna prurines?
Mucuna prurines. This is a velvety bean. If you just put velvet bean L-dopa, it is 99% L-Dopa, which is the precursor.
Ooh.
It gets converted to dopamine.
I'll take L8 ball of it.
Remember that movie Awakenings where people were frozen?
Yes. With Robert De Niro.
That's right. And Robin Williams.
Yes, Robin Williams.
And they gave those patients, it was a true story. It's based on a story by the neurologist writer Oliver Sacks. And they gave those people L-Dopa. That velvety little bean is L-Dopa. So you say, can you manufacture it? You can take the thing that is the precursor. Now, if you do that, you'll feel dopaminergic, as neuroscientists say. You'll be like buzzed. You'll be energized.
Like Shakira.
Absolutely. And then,
vibed up.
And then you'll feel the drop. And then methamphetamine stimulates the release, as we saw. Cocaine stimulates the release behaviors. Listen, I don't want to demonize dopamine.
No, not at all.
Dopamine is, I'm sure I had a surge of dopamine walking in here today. I'm a fan of your show.
I had a surge of dopamine when I saw you. I was excited, nervous about it, and then it happened.
So here, and hopefully I will, the reward prediction error won't be less than you anticipated. That's my goal. So,
it's already fascinating.
So I think that, can you manufacture it? Well, there are things that can stimulate its release. Now, what's really beautiful is when, I think usually it happens when you're a teen. For me, it was 19 when I discovered biology. Wasn't good at skateboarding, wasn't bad, but I liked running and working out, but I never thought about becoming a professional athlete. And then I discovered learning and biology. And I thought, wow, this is something that I'm highly motivated to do. I didn't really understand dopamine then. We didn't know that much about it, but I'm motivated to do it. So there's dopamine from doing it. It brings me resources, at first degrees and knowledge, later, the ability to buy a house, right? So much of my life is built around the work that I did, like a maniac, really, between the age of 19 and I'm 49 now, just working nonstop. And so there's functional dopamine. And pretty soon you start weaving it in like, I can also rest and have some recreation. And that's giving me dopamine. And so our lives are built around this molecule we call dopamine.
And so the ways that you can manage it, almost orchestrate dopamine to use it to your advantage. It's very usable.
Right. I think the thing to remember are the following. Dopamine is not about the pursuit of pleasure. It's about the pleasure of pursuit. It's about motivation. The other thing to remember about dopamine is it can, if it's increased very dramatically and very fast, it can drive addiction. And I define addiction as a progressive narrowing of the things that bring you pleasure. A great life is where many, many things bring you pleasure.
Yeah.
And then perhaps the most important thing for people, especially if they're concerned about porn, gambling, internet use, or whatever, even if they're not a full-blown addict, they're just kind of feeling like a slave to everything going on, that, just everything, highly processed foods, all of that, is that any high amount of dopamine that comes to you without effort before it will eventually destroy you.
Wow.
Or bring you close to destruction. So something that just feels so good that all you had to do was open a package. All you had to do was take a pill.
Or open a website. That is the slippery slope. And if we think more in terms of, Pandora's box doesn't really have a key on it, huh?
Yeah, like listen, I'm not a huge UFC fan, but I've been to a few fights and it's fun. And I see you guys down there in the front row and this kind of thing. Look, someday I imagine, given my friend set and given my interests, maybe I'll just buy a ticket and it'd be a great thrill, right? But if I were a kid and I suddenly were just planted there every single night, guess what? You move one row back, it's going to feel like bad seating, And this is why the children of very wealthy people, unless your father is like a Warren Buffett who insists that you actually work and this kind of thing, the children of very wealthy people often destroy their lives. They destroy their lives because they haven't had to work to have all this stuff. And there's this huge cushion below them. In fact, my graduate advisor,
they're almost swimming in dope and they're almost in the hot tub, but they've never been in the pool.
And then they're down below baseline. And then it takes more and more and more. That show.
So is that genetic then? Sorry to interrupt you, but is that genetic, your baseline level for dopamine? Is that genetic?
No, this is all behaviorally driven. And I'm not saying parents should.
So you said it's all behaviorally driven.
All behaviorally driven.
So I'm just saying, if like you had your father was an addict or somebody, and then it could to the next generation have that same like need to get back to that baseline, and it could be inherited type of thing.
Well, so there are certain addictions that appear to have some genetic component, but it's confounded, as we say. It's mixed up with the behavioral stuff around that. Like, for instance, the probability of somebody becoming a severe alcoholic, they now call it alcohol use disorder. And I'm not trying to be irreverent, but I just call it alcoholism.
Alcoholism, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna try and stay out of the lanes of
Yeah,
political
we've all
correctness.
got it in here,
Yeah.
so.
Great. So the probability that somebody will become an alcoholic greatly increases if their first drink, just their first sip, comes before age 13. Okay. Now, some parents think, hey, listen, if my kid has a beer when they're 8 and 10, then they won't have this, kind of mysterious feeling around alcohol. That's one theory, but we know on good statistics that drinking before the age of 13 greatly increases the probability of becoming an alcoholic. So now you can imagine, in which households will that happen? Well, where they're trying to normalize high alcohol intake. So it can be both genetic and circumstantial.
But do some countries then suffer with the higher alcoholism rates then?
Yes.
Even European ones?
Yeah,
'Cause
Northern European countries, especially in the winter. I have Northern European relatives, and I'll tell you, in the winter, they can drink up there, and it's dark, and alcohol is a depressant. There's also about 8% of people have a gene variant that when they drink, they don't feel the same sedative type quality to alcohol. When you drink, the first thing that happens for everybody is your prefrontal cortex. This is like the part of your brain right behind your forehead. It's the part that sets context, like what's appropriate in different places.
Oh, yeah.
It inhibits you. Everybody gets a little more talkative, right? Everyone's talking. But then you drink more and people are starting to pass out on the couch and people are slurring their words. About 8% of people get a dopamine surge and an energy increase from alcohol with increasing alcohol intake. These are the people, remember when you're in your 20s and there's that guy and he's still awake at like 3 in the morning, he's in the kitchen.
And he's bumping around, he's in the cupboard.
And you see him the next morning.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey. And you're like, we were passed out, blacked out, drunk.
He's doing laundry or whatever.
He's just like, hey, let's go running.
Yeah, he's doing, making a lemonade or whatever.
So
Like,
that's a genetic predisposition.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, but is that a positive one? It sounds like it is kind of.
Well, it's probably adaptive in some, you got the cursor on Russia. I mean, listen, I'm friends with Lex Friedman. I mean, that kid can drink compared to me.
Oh, dude, yeah, he definitely.
I don't drink. I had my last sip in 2019.
Amen. Yeah. Well, and Lex has the depression to show it, man. He's got that emo side of him that takes over him. He's definitely.
I think he just put something out again on X.
I mean, it's perfect. No, I love Lex because there's this transparency about him to me that is remarkably human. Like this, like ever hopeful, talented, but also very like honest.
He's just so Lex.
He just said, I'm an introvert who hides from the world often way too much. One thing I wish I did more is call and text my friends. I think about them often and feel lucky to know them, but experience a strange anxiety that prevents me from texting and calling. Silly introvert brain wants to pull me into isolation and darkness. Then again, once I hang out with said friends, it's like we've been talking every day, so maybe there's no problem. And it's just how dude friendships are. P.S. These thoughts brought to you by Brain on 6 shots of espresso. That's perfect.
And I think, with Lex,
high octane.
I won't claim that he posted that because of me, but I'd been texting him for like 3 weeks now, and it's just crickets. And then I'll get something back that just says, here.
Yeah.
And you just learn with him over time. That's just that.
Well, that's
guy,
Russian communication.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it can take 5 generations to get a hug out of somebody. It's like
I love the Russians.
Oh, they're unbelievable, and they, a lot of them had carried stone dolls as children. Like, imagine if your baby doll is made of stone. It's like that. Your whole concept of the world is going to be so different.
Stone dolls.
Bring back that chart up again. I want to see what they were doing over there. Alcoholism by country. United States 13.9%. Canada only 8%, UK 8.7%, and what's the darkest one over there? It's Russia, and what's it at? 20.9%. Hell yeah.
Cold and bleak.
Oh yeah, you got to be fucking brain dead.
North
over
Korea
there.
is lowest, but we don't really know what's going on in North Korea.
No, we don't know. This is just a fun chart, but it's also exciting to just make.
That's one place I never want to visit.
Be reminded that the Russians live like that. I want to ask you about this. So one of the big things that I think is a huge problem that's about to happen in the world is pornography addiction, right? I believe it's humongous. I believe it's bigger than alcoholism. I believe it's like the wave of it that we're starting to see, like people really suffering from it. I think it's one of the reasons why there's a lot of divorce. What do you see like neuroscientifically about how people can start to manage that? And then even just what you just talked about dopamine, it's like, I think it's helping people realize with that it's like such a hole that you're getting into. Whatever that thing is called, no pun intended. How does that how can people start to cut that off for themselves? Is there anything they can do, or do they have to get help if they believe that they're suffering from like pornography or sexual addiction?
Yeah, super important questions. I'm so glad you're raising this because, it's interesting. If you look at the research on pornography and sexual behavior generally, right? What you'll find mostly in the academic studies of those areas is kind of an attempt to normalize a lot of behavior. There are reasons for that, some pseudo-political, some just kind of the way those studies were done for a long time. But it's really important to emphasize that it takes a while for science to catch up to culture.
Okay, it takes a while for science to catch up to culture.
Yeah, and the reason is not because scientists are lazy or they're uninterested, is that doing science well takes a long time. Look, I've run studies in my lab on animals, on humans, clinical trials. It takes a long time, like 3-4 years sometimes.
To get real information?
To get a really good study done. Meanwhile, life is happening. And in the last 5 years especially, there's been an exponential growth of the amount of pornography available online, the different formats, right? OnlyFans, all the different sites that people can go to.
Oh, yeah.
Free, paid,
AI.
And within each of those, there's also been a huge amplification of what's called like high intensity porn. What's high intensity porn? It's more than two people. It's BDSM. Now, BDSM is its own discussion that maybe we could talk about at some point, just separately, about this merge of pain and pleasure. That the reason, the punchline is that dopamine is also increased by what we call the cessation of pain. When pain starts and then stops, you get an amplified dopamine surge. So a lot of people are watching or engaging in what we would call violent porn, right? And we're, as primate species, humans, we have an empathy. So when people are watching pornography, they're obviously not experiencing the same things exactly those people are doing and experiencing, but they're tuning into it, right?
Yeah.
They're getting to it. And we can only speculate as to what they're doing to themselves, right?
Yeah.
Typically when we're talking about porn, let's just be direct, we're also talking about masturbation, right? Typically when we're talking about watching video porn, sometimes it's women, most often it's men by a huge majority.
Oh,
right?
yeah, the men are the one watching it.
Yeah. Although, years ago, I had a girlfriend, a woman I was dating very seriously, and she confessed to me that prior to our relationship, she had developed a porn compulsion. It wasn't an addiction. An addiction, again, is a progressive narrowing of the things that bring you pleasure. It hadn't taken her to the point where it was destructive, but she had the wisdom to cut herself off from it early on. Okay, so it does happen with women, but it's much more frequent with men. So here's the thing. We can think of pornography now as like the methamphetamine of pornography compared to the pornography of, we always hear about, like when I was growing up,
drawings,
the Playboy or the thing when I was a kid, like I'll confess this didn't know I was going to do a confession, but they had those like sex education books where they were like sketch drawings in pencil.
Oh yeah, bring them up.
And when I was, probably 14, 13, I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This was awesome. But it was about, teaching you basically about sex. It was teaching you about body parts. And that was,
for sure,
look at
man.
pencil drawings. I can't believe we're looking this up.
No, it's interesting because I think a lot of people probably.
If you do pencil drawings, who knows what kind of freaky stuff's going to jump up here.
No, we have a blocker on, I'm pretty sure.
These are.
Yeah,
there we go. So it had some. See, human loving. This is very different than today's porn.
Sex, right? And I love how they used to call it human loving.
Human loving.
That's nice though. There's something. At least it makes more sense. It puts even your head into something, instead of like Britney's butt world or whatever, which takes it to a whole different deal.
And there was no discussion whatsoever of elements of pain or BDSM or power play. There you go. Yeah. I mean,
God, that's
for a
nice.
Heterosexual young male, the fact that they put her naked facing us as opposed to the guy on the other side, you're like, okay, cool. But the other thing about pornography is that it, in a young brain, this is very important. And it relates to everything we're talking about today. From about age 0 to 25, your brain is incredibly plastic. It's modified by experience just by being in those experiences.
When you say plastic, you mean it's more like it's not as solid yet?
That's right. You can literally wire neurons, plasticity. You can wire neurons to other neurons very readily. I mean, this was known for a long time, but it was really formalized by my scientific great-grandparents, David Hubel and Torsten Wiesel. They won a Nobel Prize for showing that if you take a cat, a monkey, or a kid, and you close one eyelid for just a few hours each day, the brain becomes blind to visual input through that eye once you open the eye up, unless you do something else like close the other eye in order to reverse that plasticity. However, if today I just said, that's how fast and permanent it is unless you do something to reverse it. But if I did that same thing to you now or me now, there'd be no brain change. You close your eye, obviously you can't see through a closed eye. Pop open the eyelid later, you see just fine. So we know that until about age 25, the brain just modifies itself based on experience. So if you're doing cocaine, amphetamine, or let's just stay with this example, you're watching high intensity violent porn with more than two people, right? We forget that every time you add another person, even if it's two women and one guy, or when it's, what's this woman on X? I have to say it gives me sick. An aversive response, which I think is the healthy response. Every time
makes me sad.
She announces, I think she's like sleeping with 100 and then 1,000 people. And listen, she's obviously in control of her own life.
Western Conference right now, I think I just saw the other day. I don't know what is it Barbara Blue?
Bonnie Blue.
Body Blue.
Yeah. Bonnie.
This is like methamphetamine with heroin, and you get the picture. It's starting to layer in all these different things. And so you think about the young male brain in particular, young female brain watching this stuff. And it's not just setting a behavioral expectation, because we always hear about that. They think sex is like that, and it's not. It's setting this incredibly high threshold for what they consider stimulating. Not just stimulating sexually, but stimulating mentally.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, it's crazy. It's like, listen, I like playing cards every once in a while. So you go play a card game with your friends. It'd be like the first time you play cards, you got $1 million. You're back there in the high state. You're in like the Dana White room, right? Like I know, like when I see sometimes his gambling hands, right? He's
it's wild.
But he can afford to play,
right?
And he also knows where that fits into the rest of his life. But you think about a kid. You have a chance to win $1 million. Actually, there's this scene in that movie, that show. Remember Succession?
Yes.
A show that it's all about dopamine. This family of rich brats who are completely corrupt. Everything's about more. Dopamine has been called in a book, I forget the author, the molecule of more. It's all about wanting more. And there's this dreadfully sad scene where they go out to play, I think it was like a baseball game or something, and they bring their garden help, and they take the kid and they say, hey, if you can hit a home run, these people are clearly, and they say, if you hit a home run, you have $1 million. And you see the anticipation. This would transform these kids and their parents' life. And then he doesn't get the $1 million. And they give him like some watch that's probably worth $25,000. This is dopamine reward prediction error in a nutshell. Had they given him the watch, the family probably would have been pretty thrilled. They could sell it, they could use it. Had they not been involved in the game, their dopamine is the same as when they go home at night. But they had a chance at $1 million. And when they didn't get that, it drops them below baseline. And then you see the kid that evening, like sitting around his apartment, just completely despondent with the watch sitting there as if it was worth nothing. That's dopamine. And when you think about pornography, that's what young people are being exposed to. So their first sexual experiences not only are quite different. Remember, pornography is about, obviously, people are getting aroused by watching other people have sex.
Oh, yeah.
And, I don't know what kind of sex people are having out there, but in my experience, the whole business of sex and learning how to have great sex is about learning to be in the experience with somebody, and it's a communication, it's an ongoing communication, and it's about being in the experience, being present, not watching someone else have sex.
Oh yeah, I was thinking the other day, watching some other dude like have sex with a woman, it's kind of, I don't even know if it's homoerotic. I don't know what it is. It's definitely when you take a step back from it, it's a little bizarre. It's definitely intrusive, right? But for surely it alters the way that you think about things. I mean, I know in my own life, I got exposed to pornography real early. I would bike across town to get a little look at some pornos.
Perfectly normal behavior for a young male.
Pretty normal. Yeah. I was breaking into houses to frickin', get
I had friends like you growing up. Where did you grow up?
Louisiana.
Right. Yeah. I had friends growing up. I mean, in South Bay Palo Alto was pretty tame, but when I started getting into the skateboard thing,
sure.
We drew from kids from all over. And listen, I'm very grateful for that early exposure.
Oh yeah, it's easy to jerk off to if you get some good graffiti.
Oh no, I meant early exposure to kids that from all walks of life. But I knew kids like you breaking into houses.
Oh dude, I remember. Yeah, it would be crazy. You would just like breaking in that, just like, we made some poor choices. But I think the fact that, here's one thing I noticed for myself, right? So, well, I had like a lot of I had kind of a disorder, I guess, where like I had some intimacy issues where I couldn't, I'd had like some issues, like just like probably with my mom from growing up of not having a connection. And so if I got around a woman, I got very nervous, right? It was like a very extremely nervous, right? So I think it made it like once I saw pornography, I was like, okay, well, here's a way that I can be near a woman or near as a female where I can have some form of intimacy without having to have a real person there. So that for me was, it was okay. It made sense that's how I adapted to it as a kid or how I understood it as a kid. It makes sense. But as an adult, it didn't help me at a certain point. And then the secondary part for me was, you would see sex like in images or scenes or a way a camera's set up. And so then that's how you start to think of intimacy. It's like, okay, well, we have to do this scene. It's not like you would stage things around your room or anything. You didn't have any cameras or anything, but you would just like, you thought of each thing as like a scene or a scenario. So,
you're not out there shooting baskets. You're trying to like recreate the NBA final,
Right.
And that's a lot of pressure.
So it was a ton of pressure. So it was like, and you almost couldn't even,
tooth there. Yeah.
Back when you get a good British gal. But go on, was there anything left on that information? Over time, the term chatty Cathy became a common idiom to describe someone who is especially talkative. And I'm just joking, ladies, but that's interesting where that came from. I never knew. Always heard that.
I never heard that term. So I had the great benefit and the disadvantage as well of having a sister, right?
Okay.
Having a sister is great because you don't think women are weird. Like I grew up with a girl living next door to me and my sister.
True.
We shared a bathroom, all that. But I also heard the way her and her friends talk about boys. And so from a young age, I was like, man, I can't make a mistake on a first date. I got to do everything perfect because it's going to be the rundown. But back then, there was no social media. Now young guys tell me they are terrified to go out on dates because let's say they do something wrong. Let's say they're less than perfect. They are very concerned it's going to end up on some site and they're going to be shamed. And I'll tell you, I do think, and of course I take the male perspective because that's the only body I've ever lived in, but I do think that a lot of the complaints about, there are no men today, young males like in the 20s and 30s, a lot of these guys are terrified because they feel like everything's potentially going to become public, positive or negative. And I hear a lot from young males about the pornography question, about all this. And I like, there's one kid that I've kind of mentored over time. I've known him since he was a little kid and now he's in his 20s and he's doing great in life, but he's had his challenges. And I'll tell you, it's really interesting. He said to me, he goes, look, it's hard. He's a good looking kid. Right now he's working construction. He's doing great. And he said, look, it's hard to find someone who just kind of keeps your relationship just the two of you.
Yeah.
But he did. He had a girlfriend. She wasn't the one. So he found one and they have a closed container, they call it. There's like the new language or something. And he's like, man, it's awesome. And he's like, if I'm nervous about something related to intimacy, we talk about it. Turns out she's nervous too. And he feels super safe. But he had to literally ante that up because where he went to school, I won't say where he went to school because he'll murder me.
Yeah.
But it's like
State.
the opposite. Arizona State, right? Exactly. There's all this stuff about people talking behind the scenes and then posting it to the internet, and that's enough. And so that drives guys more into the loneliness and isolation of porn and substance abuse. And so I'm not blaming women here. I'm not blaming men here. I'm just saying that when it comes to intimacy, everybody's nervous about that, right? When I was a kid, there was like Dr. Ruth and there were those books. And then you had this thing called experience and you'd have to, that went well, that went less well, that went really well. And then over time you learn how to have the communication and enjoy yourself in it.
Yeah,
but it's hard. It's difficult.
Now you can have a thing where it's like, say you go out on a date with a girl and then they could make a video like, oh, this guy tried to kiss me, what a lose. Just like, but I guess guys could do that too. But just the risk of that on either side, it's like, then that wins, it's like, how many times are we going to let technology defeat what just means being human, right? And like, and at what point do we start to choose like, hey, I'm going to make a moral, like a choice for myself, and whoever I'm going to date with, maybe have a talk with them first or something, like, you know. But it's like every time it's like technology is the one that seems to like take away like things that used to be so real to us. Yeah, because then you're both in a cave, you're both just masturbating or whatever, and you're both like brokenhearted in some semblance. It seems like, is that crazy to say that?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, listen, text messages. I hate telling people this, but like everything you text is potentially public. Yeah. I don't care if you're a public facing, AKA famous person or not, and that terrifies people. At the same time, you know, there can be great intimacy through writing. You know, my first girlfriend and I wrote each other letters for years. I still have letters from girlfriends.
Yeah.
And, you know, I cherish those. I don't break them out too often. If you have a new girlfriend, you basically got to hide those away pretty carefully. But I assume anyone I date's got those, you know, from their former relationships.
Yeah, every now and then
I'm not bothered by that. I mean, that's part of their experience.
You go get them out. But I agree, man. I get nervous because sometimes like for a date or something I would like to do, well, let's do a Zoom call or something first, because it's like, you know, especially if we live a little bit away from each other, let's see if we even talk well or something. But then you're worried like, well, is somebody recording this or what's going on?
Yes,
but
they're
then
recording
it's like,
it.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding.
Could
I
be.
mean, listen, well, the old stereotype was girls feared getting slut shamed.
Right.
Guys feared getting dork shamed, like loser shamed.
Yeah.
Right? Big, you know, it's been said by the evolutionary biologists.
Donnie's
you know,
a loser, dude.
Well, and they speculate a lot, but the evolutionary biologists will say, you know, woman's greatest fear is violence from a man. Man's greatest fear is being laughed at by a woman.
Oh, God.
Right? And right, exactly. And so there's this battle nowadays. I'm glad we're talking about this because there's this kind of unspoken battle between the masculine and feminine forces.
Well, it's just funny you say that because I just realized that the majority of my childhood was some woman, I don't even know who it was, laughing in the distance in my head.
Oh, man. Well, and
like especially when I got into puberty and that kind of time.
But, well, and there's nothing that feels better than, you know, feeling like you can deeply satisfy your partner and they're devoted to you and you're devoted to them. It's a wonderful, I mean, that's the stuff that, you know, love and marriages and families and, to be direct, great sex are made of, right?
But this is one of the most important conversations to our audience, because I think this is the thing it's killed, you know, relationships are falling up. It's like, if this doesn't get fixed now, it's going to be, I think it's, you know, societies can change and end really fast, especially with like technology now. To me, it's just like we're at a crucial moment for relationships.
I totally agree. I mean, you know, young guys approach me a lot about the porn thing, about concern about like, are they going to be shamed on one of these sites if they, you know, do something wrong or and I'm not talking about like wrong, like they were forceful. I'm talking about wrong, like they made a mistake or they said something dumb or, you know, I think
What's
a lot
that
of
one, Nick, didn't you have a site you're pulling up? This is one right here. Are we dating the same guy? Women turn to Facebook to uncover cheating and violence. Experts say use of groups to warn others about dangerous men is indictment on government's failure to keep women safe.
This is from The Guardian, so it's obviously very pro the groups, but there's negative consequences like people being reported just for dating multiple women that they're not exclusive with and stuff like that.
But it's very pro who, you said?
The Guardian is very pro the app as like an empowerment for women, the way they can stay safe.
Yeah, well, I think apps that protect people against violence are great. I think that, you know, if you look at the data on infidelity in and out of marriage, it's equally distributed between men and women. Okay, it's equally distributed. So there's no men cheat more than women. It's clearly equally distributed. So the data play that out over and over again. You look at divorce data, but you just look at self-report data, all different forms of data collection that really orient towards honesty, because people lie all the time in studies and statistics.
Yeah.
But point to that. I think that, you know, the most important thing really, if we're talking about forming intimacy, whether or not sexual intimacy, emotional intimacy, or both, is that people feel that their communications are vaulted between them, right?
What does vaulted mean?
Vaulted means it's just between them. What happened? What's exchanged between them stays between them.
That's intimacy in its own right. That it's something here. It's between us, right?
That's right. I mean, I have a half joking solution to this, but I'm only half joking.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I should say I've had some great relationships and I've had some not great relationships, right? I'm on great terms with most all of my ex-girlfriends, you know, and I'm so grateful to, especially one from about it was a long relationship, about 7 years, where she really taught me how to like have the uncomfortable conversation.
Wow.
And I'm still learning, right? And we're still good friends. But I'll tell you one of the solutions to this. Men, find a good lesbian friend. You want to really understand where you're strong, where you're weak, and you want to learn to just kind of relax around women. Be around a woman that you have no chance of sleeping
That
with.
buddy oyster, bro.
You know, I have a couple of lesbian friends, and I'll tell you, I've always had a couple of lesbian friends. I'm convinced lesbians are going to save us all.
God, I got to get one.
They are,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you got to get it out of your head that you're going to sleep with them.
Yes.
Because these are what we call platinum star lesbians. They are interested in women and women only.
Oh yeah, I'm talking chicken a Westbrook jersey.
So, and it's interesting because they have an amazing perspective on men that's from a women's perspective. And they also have an amazing perspective on women. Yeah. They can say things like, she's crazy. Andrew, you date her, you're going to be in pain. And they can also say things like, she seems pretty cool. I would date her, except she's not into women. And
that's good.
Women can see things in women that men can't see. Men can see things in men that obviously women can't see. I mean, I grew up in a big pack of guys. Like, I only hit bullseyes when it comes to assessment of friends and business partners, men and women. But, you know, with men, I can just tell. He's a sociopath. He's cool. He's not cool. I can just tell. It's like a sixth sense. The other thing, you know, across the sexes, you know, a macaque monkey blindfolded on LSD has better optics. And I don't think I'm alone in that, right? Because we get stirred. It's not all about the anticipation of sex. It's that the styles of communication are different. The way that stories and information is turned into things by one sex. And it's like a whole different world. Lesbians normalize all of this, and they're extremely direct. And some of my best friends are lesbians. I love them to death. I would.
We got to get some damn lesbians over here.
Lesbians are going to save us all, man.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That would be a great musical. Lesbians are going to save us all. And I believe that I would love to see that. And I think that, I think there is this, you know, for a while there, people were like gays and, you know, don't be gay and that kind of stuff. Probably like 50 years ago, that was like a thing, you know. And then, but now I think one of the neat things about gay folks is they have like a special recipe, you know, that's built into them.
Worked out. Like, I have a good friend I've known since childhood. It was wild because he basically slept with like more women than any of us in high school.
He's a gay gentleman?
He ended up being gay.
Wow.
Went off to college. He's as gay as could be.
Yeah.
And you know, and the communication, he's explained like the communication in the gay male community. I don't
so
you
easy.
know, well, it's just very direct.
Right.
People ask for sex if they want. They say no if they don't want to.
Want lunch? Want to
it's
come?
Yeah. I mean,
That's it.
It
Straight up.
I mean, the stereotype is it matches. There are some married gay couples, obviously monogamous, et cetera, but it aligns with all the male stereotypes of promiscuous, multiple partners. That's the kind of stereotype, right? You know,
Let's grill and cum. That'd be my team, dude. If you had a gay flag football team in college, dude, for at the rec center, grill and cum.
You want to hear some wild data on homosexuality and hormones? Okay, so years ago when I was a graduate student at Berkeley, I was part of a study. I wasn't the main author that looked at finger length ratios and homosexuality in men and women, and how much testosterone was in utero. Now, I don't want anyone to freak out and just start staring at their fingers, but because it has to be measured correctly. All right. So if you hold up your right hand, like I'm holding up my right hand, my ring finger here is a little bit longer than my pointer finger. Let me see.
Which one's a ring finger?
Yeah. So turn it the other way around for me. Yeah. Okay. So your ring finger is a little bit longer than your pointer finger.
Yeah.
Okay. That is the typical heterosexual male pattern.
Okay.
Now, people are going to be like, this is bullshit. Listen, this has been replicated more than 5 times in humans. Okay. So on the right hand, and you don't know, sometimes they look a little more equal. But
what is replicated? 5 generations?
Yeah, 5 different studies have repeated this, and it holds up every single time. So, and if sometimes you have to measure from that first crease on the palm side.
Oh, because it's
But
cheating.
if we were to measure it, so this pointer finger is smaller than the ring finger. Okay, it's called the D2 to D4 ratio. Scientists are super nerdy. Okay, turns out that if you look at gay men that identify as gay, there are very few men that identify as bisexual, actually. But if you look at gay men, that difference is much more pronounced. much bigger. They have a hyper male pattern. Now, it can't be due to behavior, right? You could say, well, they're having sex with a lot more people. Sex increases testosterone. No, it's directly related to how much testosterone you were exposed to in utero when you were in your mommy's belly. Now,
can you get exposed to testosterone in your mom's belly if someone ejaculates into the mom?
That hasn't been looked at, but I don't think so. There's a lot to talk about here.
Down? Yeah.
So yeah, you can put that hand down.
So, put this one up.
So gay men have a hyper male pattern. The the pointer finger tends to be relatively shorter than the ring finger.
So the pointer finger is shorter than the ring finger.
Yeah.
The
on the right hand.
On the
right hand is where it's there you go. See, so yep. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Fuck.
Okay, so
my shit's close.
It's a very small difference in everyone. But
okay.
But in gay men, it tends to be much greater. Now,
so in the gay men, the pointer finger is a little bit more shorter than the ring finger.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. And we're not talking about absolute. We're talking about
that's gay.
the ratio. Okay, now check this out. Now check it out. Lesbians tend to have the same pattern as heterosexual men, which is not to say they are men, right? Believe me, I got lesbian friends. They are women. A lot of people, when they hear lesbian, they think of like a sort of cartoon stereotype of a lesbian. There are a lot, trust me, there are a lot of different lesbians. Actually, my lesbian friends recently have been trying to school me on how you spot a lesbian. Ooh. Turns out there's all sorts of interesting things that the lesbian community is going to get. I'm not supposed to give away these secrets. It's kind of like magicians, but let's just say like number of rings and stuff are like interesting correlates. Mm-hmm. Okay. Love the lesbian community.
Yeah,
okay.
we got to find some good lesbians, man, in the future.
So here's what's wild.
Yeah.
The more older brothers a guy has, the more testosterone he's exposed to in utero and the higher probability it is that he'll be gay.
Wow.
Now, that's not always the case. It doesn't mean you have 5 older brothers, you'll be gay, but much higher probability of being gay if you have more older brothers. With each older brother, the probability of a male baby growing up into a gay man increases significantly.
Gosh.
Okay, super interesting. Now, all of this is interesting because it shows that there's what we call organizational effects of hormones in utero. None of this can be because of behavior. In fact, these differences are present at birth.
Okay.
Okay. And then, of course, the question I asked when I was on the study is if I would chop off my index finger, does my testosterone go up? The answer is no. So, when we think about like partner selection, like, heterosexual, homosexual, I think years ago it was thought that this was, there were still people that thought this was a behavioral choice. Listen, newsflash, this is clearly a biological phenomenon.
Okay.
None of this, clearly, like, and I understand that, but there's of course also flexibility. You could imagine that some people, because of experience, decide that they're gonna, bat for the other team.
Oh, for sure. A lot of my gay friends are like, it's not a choice, right? It's just like, it's who you are. And I'm like, well, why, after you've had a drink, are you trying to get me to choose it? That's a thing for me.
That's a very good
point. It's like reverse psychology.
Actually,
they're trying to trick you or something. Wiener trick.
That's interesting. My lesbian friends have never tried to convince me to be a lesbian. But
I don't blame gay dudes because I think the ultimate thing you can get as a gay dude is a straight dude. That's hot chick.
Well, okay. So I can't speak for lesbians, but my close lesbian friends tell me that also, like flipping somebody, for them is like considered a trophy. Right.
Yeah.
But so the last sort of study in this,
there was catching a Bigfoot or whatever.
There's a neuroscientist by the name of Simon LeVay who years ago looked in the brain for brain differences between gay and straight men, and he found one. There's a little area of the hypothalamus called the interstitial nucleus of the anterior hypothalamus, area 4, that is different in size between gay men and straight men. And it's hard to argue that comes from behavior. It could have. The problem with that study is they got the brains from deceased AIDS patients, and AIDS is a known neurodegenerative condition. So there's no perfect study of any of this. I don't know how we got into this, but I think basically we're talking about lesbians are going to save us all. But one thing that I think is so important about the work you do, and seriously, one of the reasons I wanted to come here today is because you're normalizing conversations about addiction, porn, sex, intimacy. You asked why, I think you answered your question earlier. Why is podcasting so big and important now? Because you're not going to get this kind of conversation on a legacy news channel. They're going to bring in somebody who's like the expert, and they're going to talk about things from the perspective of never having done them. They're not going to reveal anything about themselves. And here we are kind of, brushing up against the barbed wire of some of these topics in an effort to really talk about them, because this is what a lot of people are struggling with.
Yeah, some of that intimacy disorder stuff was a nightmare for me, because when I was in my 20s, I was so nervous around women that a lot of times I had erectile dysfunction, you know?
Could you talk to your partner about it? Probably back then it was probably taboo, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I think I just felt defeated, you know? It felt very much like, damn, something's wrong with me. I don't know what's wrong with me, you know? And it was like, I remember I had, it's funny because kind of with like my first girlfriend, I didn't really have it. And then it started to happen. And then the same thing happened with my second girlfriend. And then after that, once I kind of got into like age 23, or like 24, it was like a problem for a long time. So
it was like a bug in your brain.
Oh, yeah. So once it was like, I knew it was there, then it was like always this thing. So, oh, fuck, I can't even, I forgot about all these nightmare times where you'd be on a date and you'd be like, how's this date going? And then like, are we going to get like intimate? Then what's going to happen? And I would like, you know, I remember like, I would eat like, those gas station wiener pills, like, like Black Attack 40 or whatever.
I've seen them on the counter.
No, they don't work, dude.
I think they're all just caffeine and stimulants, which can't be good. Can't be good.
One of them I took, just zoom in on some of those. No, that's Dayquil. I mean, that's not going to help anybody. Triple Green, Rhino 87, Macho Man, White Black Guy. That's a crazy name for one.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I made that up.
Oh, okay, I didn't see that there. I thought I have a visual defect or something.
Oh yeah, Body Beast or whatever, King Kong.
But nowadays, a lot of this has worked out because the drug tadalafil, also known as Cialis, was developed as a way to increase blood flow to the prostate. By the way, every male 35 or older, this was suggested by the director of male sexual health at Stanford School of Medicine, Mike Eisenberg. So I'm not just pulling this out of nowhere. Every male 35 or older should probably be on a low dose, 2.5 to 5 milligrams of tadalafil in the evening. It's very inexpensive. It does require a prescription. Why? Because the prostate needs blood flow. And it also serves, it has this pro-erectile function, right? And of course, one has to do all the other things correctly. You got to be sleeping, exercising, et cetera. Also, a lot of guys think they should be doing Kegels, that thing where you're like, kind of tight. That actually will tighten your pelvic floor and block blood flow to the penis and make erection more difficult.
I haven't been doing it.
Yeah, so they did, a lot of this stuff wasn't taught.
I remember I would take some of them so much sometime. I remember one time I was trying to like perform, like have sex with this gal or something, and I'd taken so many of those wiener pills, my nose just started bleeding.
Oh no!
All over this woman, and I was like,
no.
What is happening?
Did she freak out?
Huh? I don't know. It was in Miami. We had like a belly full of crab or whatever. But it was like this nice crab place, but it was like, and my nose it was just like, that was crazy. But it just became this crazy dance in my head where it was like, wiener pills, trying to be normal, like trying to calm down, like putting ice in my shirt, just all these things to like chill, like just be able to be normal for sex. That shit was a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean,
it was a nightmare. And then you're stuck in this universe where that becomes like your whole battle, and then you get afraid to even talk to girls sometimes or relate to them because you're like, well, what, if I take a girl down this road and it's not able to work out, then who am I? Then where am I at?
Yeah, and then imagine that, but layered on top of that is the fear of being shamed by. Listen, I don't know that I'm just going to bring it up. I don't know the specifics, but I remember hearing a few years ago there was a comedian who was like shamed for being bad in bed or something. Was this like, and that was one of the first he was kind of canceled for being bad in bed. Wasn't that? That was.
I don't know.
All right. Well, and listen, if there was like coercive stuff or whatever, I don't know, but I wasn't there. Obviously didn't read the article either. But I think, you layer on top the fear of being shamed, right? And all of a sudden, like you're talking about, like collapsing a young male's existence. I mean, I think yeah, I like I said, for the fourth time, forgive me for repeating myself, 49. So
You look young, man. You look
thanks,
great.
man. I feel good. Well, listen, I quit drinking. I never drank that much, but also I've been doing things that I love. I was going to say that one of the things that'll keep you young is dopamine.
Really?
Not from pharmacology, but being in pursuit of things that you love.
We'll
Anticipation. But I think that
let's go into that in just a second, but let's finish out this, what you were saying.
Yeah, I think that, I benefited tremendously from being open with that first girlfriend.
Yes.
That first girlfriend just saying, hey, like, she had this like buff boyfriend in another school, but actually it was wild because he ended up killing himself. And that was years later. And I remember thinking this guy was like the football hero, right? He ended up committing suicide. And I remember thinking, wow, I thought in my mind, he was like, couldn't be outdone, right? Yeah. And so talking to her, I remember her just saying like, first she said something like, we were kids, right? We were like 16, and she said, you're wonderful. And I remember thinking like, I don't want to be called wonderful. Like I'm trying to get good at this thing, right? And I think if I've learned anything, like if I could send like a all points bulletin out, it's like everything we know about the erectile response is that it's what we call parasympathetic. It comes from the relaxation response. Orgasm is related to, it's almost like a stress of sorts. It's pleasureful, but high arousal. Yeah. The key to all of it is a lot of exhales, a lot of nasal breathing, and just slow the whole thing down. Yeah. Slow the whole thing down. That later once you're comfortable with somebody, if you got like 5 minutes and you're gonna like go for the quickie thing in the kitchen before you leave to work, okay, that's a whole program, right? Okay, that's like that guy Lethal Shooter on Instagram, the guy can make a basket from anywhere. Like he worked up to that. Right. What you're trying to do is slow down the whole thing, and get into sensation. You got to get out of your head.
Yes.
Now, it's one thing to say get out of your head. It's another to do it. So the whole process there starts with just only going so far as then you communicate with the person. Slow down. These things have a real beauty to them because when people start entering that dance and communicating well with one another, all of a sudden, like the magic of biology takes over.
God, yeah.
And then someone thinks, oh, well, now it's going to go back. Then you just kind of restart and do the whole thing. And nowadays, I think young males go quickly. They're like, I'm going to take 20 milligrams of tadalafil, this, that. Listen, that probably would help. But learning how to do this thing that we call intimacy, right? I mean, intimacy is a lot of things, but knowing that what's happening there is between the two of you. And that also means you guys, because, there's also been a long history of men talking about all the women they slept with, and then that doesn't feel good necessarily to the other women.
For sure.
The art of intimacy is something that we've lost. And listen, I'm not saying that all sexes has this element. You know, sometimes people just want to get together and get raw, but that's an advanced skill that you may or may not want to engage in.
Right.
And I think that slowing the whole thing down, like, hey, we're going to be together in bed 4 times before we ever actually have intercourse. Like it's weird to look at you while I say that, but you know what I'm talking about.
No, hell no. It would have been great.
This is the kind of thing that can transform, not only avoids problems, but can transform your notion of like what's possible in relationship.
Yeah. Oh, I had to
slow. And then once that intimacy is set, then there can be some, more adventurous exploration at speed. But it's all about slowing that thing down, slowing the whole process down.
Yeah, dude. I remember this freaking my girlfriend at the time. I was like, I thought I couldn't get an erection, right? So I had her call me a different name, like we were making out.
that was your solution.
Well, this dude Robert in our grade was getting mad erections. Everybody was saying, and I'll be like, call me. And this is so embarrassing, but I'd be like, call me Robert. And it didn't fucking help. And she's like, it was just the most embarrassing. That shit was super embarrassing, dude. Because even if I was Robert, I couldn't even get an erection at the time. So that was horrible. Trying to think of what else happened. Dude, over the years, I've gone, down the gamut of all of it, like hiring escorts or, thinking like, oh, we need more than one part. Like all that, like just thinking like all these things would change it, drugs, alcohol, like all these different things to like trying to fine tune how I would feel okay. I think even just to be in like a just to be like in an intimate conversation, like, oh, I wished I would have from the beginning been like, just with a girl, like been, hey, like this is what's going on and this is how I'm feeling and this is what's popping, you know, and like, and even made it cool or whatever. And it would have brought us closer together. But instead I took this huge bypass of like things that I thought would, like, I thought that intimacy was just a one man show.
Whoa, that, yeah,
you know,
it's so important what you're saying, that it was all your responsibility.
Does that make any sense or not?
Yeah, listen, newsflash, men and women. There are women who are great in bed, and there are women who are not great in bed.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
there are great lovers who are women. There are not great lovers. I'll tell you what makes a great female lover.
Yeah.
Somebody who can relax and enjoy herself. And part of that is the communication. And also somebody who's tuned into what works for you. You know, it took me a long time because I think all young men deal with this, right? You want to perform well. And it's interesting you mentioned Robert, and I mentioned this other guy that sadly eventually killed himself, but every young male knows the experience of, there's like this satellite male, you're holding yourself up against this image and an idea, right? This image and an idea, that's very dangerous thinking. You know what I think? I think that every male should understand that at some point, you're the satellite male. You're the satellite male. So you got to get out of that kind of thinking and understand that like dancing, like athletics, like it takes time to get good at. You need reps.
Yeah.
And you need reps under conditions where you can learn. You know, I think, you know, it sounds like you put the pressure on yourself to be like a sexual athlete from go. And like you got to learn layups, no pun intended. You got to learn your free throws. You got to learn
lay downs, brother.
know?
I look at all that pornography. That's what it was. I've been looking at all that porno, you know, and it got me all bent out.
Yeah, it's like if you want to play basketball, you don't go look at Lethal Shooter's Instagram and go, I'm going to do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, he built up to that, you know? So I think we're using an analogy here and metaphor, but it's just so important that this guy
is
is
right there, Lethal Shooter.
yeah,
Huh?
this guy is like,
He's just like that, huh?
yeah. And I'll tell you, no, it's reps. It's reps. He did a live one night that I caught really late at night when I was in New York. He can visually measure the angle the ball has to go in. He's not shooting. He is shooting for the basket, but he's trying to put the ball in a cone of a particular angle. He's looking above the basket at the angle he needs to sink that thing. He'll put a gummy bear into a 16-ounce bottle from across a court.
Damn.
And then he yells at you for doubting him.
Oh, I
Here
love
we go.
that.
What's he doing here? Oh, what do they call that game?
Game, cornhole, or
What a weird name for a game.
yeah, you wonder how it started.
Boom. Look at this guy.
Beanbag.
And he goes, I understand it now. So
Yeah, he's really good. That man, Lethal Shooter right there.
yeah, he worked up to that. And he didn't work up to it by picking up a basketball, metaphorically speaking, and saying, okay, I got to make this or else my life is destroyed and people are going to be talking about it.
Yeah.
No. So I think there has to be a private world, an intimate world where people can explore in a healthy way, communicate in a healthy way, and know it's between them. And then you get to this beautiful vista with intimacy where you're like, I love this or I love that. And, you know, I mean.
And it brings people together.
Oh, I mean, listen, I mean, I want to be respectful to, you know, my former partners, but, you know, it's one of these things where you go like, wow, like I really learned something from that person. Now, of course, as a man, you also have to have an ego intact enough to know she learned a few things from somebody else too. Right? Unless it's a first relationship.
Right.
This notion that you're the only person that's ever been there is quite rare. And part of being a grown male is accepting that. And frankly, you know, different strokes for different folks, you know, but I think you got to understand, like we're all here because either in a dish or in a human, sperm met egg. Okay. This drive that's dopamine driven and to reproduce and sex, the reason those things are so closely woven that drives so much of culture and behavior and shame and addiction and pleasure and all this stuff is because it's why we're here. Like,
right.
I mean, this is everything. And, you know, now Elon and other people are talking about how the replacement rate for humans is way, way down because we have birth control and people aren't having sex as much. I mean, it is possible that humans fail to replace themselves as a species, you know? And then you got guys like him who are trying to make up for that deficit.
Oh, yeah, he's popping off, dude.
I mean, he's got like 14 kids or something?
He'll knock up a fucking parking meter, that dude. He don't give a damn, boy. He's the only dude who put, he'll get it. I want to pivot a little bit. I saw we're starting to see stuff like I've been noticing recently these articles about measles. Have you seen this stuff hitting the airwaves? Is that realistic? It just starts to seem, if you can see one of them, Nick, and bring it up. Person may have spread measles at Shakira concert in MetLife Stadium, health officials say, right? This just seems like a person who attended a Shakira concert at MetLife Stadium on May 15th was infected with measles and may have spread the highly contagious virus at the event, health officials say. This almost reads like the beginning of a movie, right?
Yeah.
Like highly contagious, infected, spread at a concert. So it makes it super scary, right? All these, all the viruses tend to spread more quickly indoors. Measles can live in an airspace for up to 2 hours and is highly transmissible, especially amongst the unvaccinated. So this is an article. What's this in?
This is NorthJersey.com, which is owned by USA Today.
Okay.
Conventional media. So
I'm just like, what is going on here? Are they just trying to see another thing that will stick to society? What do you, as a scientist, what do you even think when you read something like this?
Okay. Super important, specific and general question you're asking. First question as a scientist I would ask is, what was the frequency of people with measles coming into the hospital before there was a focus on measles?
Got it.
Like 2 years ago, before the discussion about measles and vaccines was as prominent, at least measles vaccines, right? Back then it was all about COVID vaccines. But so I'd say if we were to look in the medical history, because hospitals keep records, in the, this was in East Rutherford. Okay, so in New Jersey, I have relatives in New Jersey. How many measles cases were identified in the last 10 years?
Right.
And what percentage of those reported having been in a public place prior? That's what I'd want to know, because that will tell you whether or not this is the media amplifying. Here we go.
Texas outbreak drives up early U.S. measles cases in early 2025. Number of measles cases reported in the U.S. per year.
Yeah, well, we hear about these things like bird flu. Remember a few years back, it was monkeypox?
Yeah.
Monkeypox. We don't hear about monkeypox anymore. That was like, monkeypox is coming for us.
Yeah, every couple of months, there's something that pops off like this. Every few months, it's like hoof mouth syndrome or canary baby,
There are cases of measles that can be very
times.
detrimental, but there's an episode of the Brady Bunch. Do you remember this episode of the Brady Bunch? Where they all get measles, and then at the end, Alice walks in and she's got the spots and she goes, "I've got measles too." When I was a kid, I had the chicken pox. Now, I'm not trying to make light of the measles, right?
No.
Like any infectious disease, there's inflammation of the body and brain. There are cases where these diseases cause serious long-term effects. And then there are cases where it has less of an effect. The most important thing to understand for me would be, what are the real statistics of, like, is measles becoming more frequent? Is that tied to the shift? Because let's face it, regardless of where you stand on the issue of vaccination, people are now taking a look again at vaccination. The vaccine
100%.
schedules have expanded, right? I'm part of the medical community. I'm an employee at Stanford School of Medicine. And I would say I fall more, just full disclosure, into the more conventional standpoint of this. I want to be really clear because I do believe that there are certain vaccinations that are highly beneficial. I also think there are a number of vaccinations that, for public health reasons, should be explored further, if for no other reason to discover that, yes, we were right, or no, we were wrong. It's just critically important. I mean, I think any self-respecting scientist would say, those are the data, let's look again. Now, there's this real twist in the data around the autism vaccine thing that's really unfortunate. And this is one of the reasons why this is such a hot button issue, is that the guy, Andrew Wakefield, who originally tried to tie the vaccine to autism, he was found guilty of fraud. Okay, now I wasn't involved in the papers or the case, but like that puts a twist in everything. Because
did he go to jail?
I believe he did, or he at least lost his medical license. Okay, there have been other instances, of scientific fraud, but that one in particular caused the entire field to assume he was completely wrong about everything. And now there are folks like Robert Kennedy, who is, like him or not, is our head of HHS. Okay, I actually know Robert. I actually am going to host Jay Bhattacharya, who is my colleague at Stanford, he's the head of NIH. And so I think right now what were the consequences?
Andrew Wakefield did not go to prison, although he was found guilty of serious professional misconduct by the UK General Medical Council and was struck off the medical register, effectively ending his career as a physician. Right. There is no record or evidence that he was ever criminally prosecuted or imprisoned for his actions related to the fraudulent 1998 Lancet study linking the MMR vaccine to autism. The sanctions against him were professional and civil, not criminal.
So an important thing that must be done, I know this issue is, I'm going to catch hate either way.
What's a hot issue right
now? It's a super hot issue. Listen, as a parent, can you imagine you have a kid and your kid seems, for all measures, perfectly healthy, has some treatment, vaccine or a pill or a trip to, the supermarket, and that kid fundamentally changes their behavior afterwards. The one thing we know is, this is also a deep hypothalamic circuit, as we say. There is a hardwired circuit for mothers, especially. Dads can be protective, but mothers to protect their young. So, when the moms are pissed off and curious, they are unrelenting. And no amount of discussion about that was resolved because the Wakefield thing was gone is going to satisfy them. So my personal take is run the studies you need to run. Make sure they're run properly with an unbiased look at all of this. So important, because the thing about vaccines and autism is really a microcosm for a much larger theme about how much can we trust the medical community. And listen, I know scientists. I was weaned in this. My dad's a scientist. Like most scientists, like 99.9% of scientists want to get things right. We are in the business of trying to untease the secrets of nature and do good things with them. Okay? And yet there are those that will manipulate the system. No one goes into science to get rich. They go into biotech to get rich, but you don't become a bench scientist at a university to get rich. Trust me.
But how can those scientists be manipulated as a group? Like when you look back at, like, how can that happen? Like, is it journals that are compromised? Is it the medical industry that gets compromised? But how do you have like a whole,
Sure. So I'll try and keep this relatively succinct. This is a whole landscape, and it's something that is like really deep and important to me as a science communicator, health communicator who has friends on both sides, of these debates. The most important thing to understand is scientists are trying to figure out the truth. They are also human, and they're highly incentivized to advance their careers. One of the things that I've observed in science is not people making up data. That's exceedingly rare. But scientists sometimes, when they don't get the answer they want in an experiment, they'll come up with reasons for why that experiment probably wasn't run right and maybe we should discard the data.
Okay, let's say that one more time. When they don't get
the answer they want, they will come up with reasons why, that antibody wasn't as fresh, or, the conditions weren't right, and they will start to steer the data, I have observed that. Okay. I've observed that a lot in my career, sadly. Far less common are people outright making up data, what we call fudging data, just like making up numbers. There's a famous case in nanotechnology of this kid whose last name was Schoen. He was like a wonderkind in the sense that he had it's very hard to publish papers in Science or Nature. This is like the Super Bowl rings of science. I've had a couple in Nature, a couple in Science, and I feel immensely blessed for that. Schoen was publishing 12 papers a year in Nature and Science.
Wow.
And at some point, people start looking more closely at their data, okay? And what happened? They saw that the random noise plots, random should be random, right? You don't need to be a scientist or a genius to understand that random should be random. He was so lazy that he was replotting the random noise in two different experiments. You can't get the same random noise in two different experiments. So there are bad apples like him. He's gone now, but most scientists are trying to get it right. And yet there's this thing that we have to constantly check ourselves on. This is why you have to, what we call blind the data. You look at it not knowing what condition you're looking at. This is why replication is so key. And the big problem in science, and I do think this new administration cares about this, it's hard to get a job as a professor for replicating work. Everyone wants to see the new thing. So a PhD student comes into my lab, they want to study something. We rarely say, let's go do what someone else did, make sure they're right. No, you pick something new. So a lot of mistakes of past get kind of baked into the field. And this is what happened in the Alzheimer's field. This is why, one mistake, which probably was somebody outright fudging as well, making stuff up, kind of get woven into the lineage. Then other papers get published more easily. And then lo and behold, 25 years later, we say, we don't have a single good treatment for Alzheimer's. Best thing you can do is get good sleep. There's a little study out today about creatine maybe helping, but we're just nipping around the corners of this extremely important problem. I must say, and this is not for political correctness, listen, I'm a tenured professor at Stanford, so I don't have to worry about, quote unquote, losing my job. I mean, there are ways you can lose your job even with tenure, but I just want to say, with all the bad things about science, the Wakefield thing, the Alzheimer's thing, the replication crisis, the lack of incentive for people to replicate work, I do have to say something very important. There are so many treatments for diseases that exist nowadays that we take for granted. that were born out of basic research. Scientists in a lab just trying to figure things out without the idea of a treatment someday. My scientific great-grandparents, I mentioned them earlier, David Hewell and Torrance and Weasel, did that experiment of closing one eye in a kitty cat and monkey. Showed that the brain is immensely plastic. That gave birth to an entire field of the molecules involved and the hormones involved and why it shuts down with age, how to open plasticity in adulthood. In many ways, it's given rise to this whole field of psychedelics for the treatment of brain disorders in order to reopen plasticity. They did not do those experiments thinking there would be any medical application, but we now know, as compared to the 70s, when a kid has a lazy eye or a cataract or what we call strabismus or any of that, we now know to get in and treat those eye diseases early while the brain is still plastic. Their work has saved the vision, in other words, has prevented blindness of countless people around the world. And there's this whole initiative in places overseas to remove cataracts, save vision. So I can give you I can give you thousands of examples of that. Immunotherapies for cancer, neuroplasticity, the incredible work being done on psilocybin for depression, MDMA, which hopefully will be approved by the FDA soon for the treatment of PTSD. Incredible 70% remission rates. The understanding of that drug, methylene dioxy, methamphetamine, it's methamphetamine with a little twist, okay? The understanding of that was born out of serious scientists slaving away in their labs for very little pay because they love discovery. And I'm not saying that to just, kind of say, oh, all scientists are great, but I think we have to be very careful. The replication crisis is real. We need to take another look at all issues related to public health. You can tell I'm very passionate about this.
Yeah.
I text Bobby all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen,
Bobby.
man, we got to look at this. We got to look at, and you know what? We can't allow ourselves to go too far in one direction or the other. I say, let's not waste any time. Let's take a look at all these vaccines again in great controlled studies.
What do we lose by looking at them?
Nothing. But I'll tell you, to say what I'm saying here, like I'm going to, this will be cut and clipped and contorted. I'm just going to come out with it. Trad medias, the moment I started showing up on Rogan, and listen, I think Joe Rogan has done tremendous amount of good for science communication. Matt Walker, me, David Sinclair, other people on there, physicists, but then the adjacency to anyone who's asking these larger questions puts you in the bullseye of, Andrew's a science denier, flat earth or whatever. No, I believe that any solid field should be subject to self-scrutiny and outside scrutiny. Yeah. And this is why, listen, I've published a number of papers and I always say, listen, I'm happy to be wrong for the right reasons. Like we were trying our damnedest to get it right. You can't be wrong for the wrong reasons, like making shit up. You make a mistake, you correct yourself. It's called being an adult. And you can tell that this gets my energy going because I will tell you, I am very concerned about the future of science in this country either way, because we've got a split right down the middle and there's all this finger pointing. And somebody, hopefully Jay Bhattacharya, our new director of the NIH, God willing, he's going to bridge this gap. I'm trying to do what I can behind the scenes to really get people talking because there's so much shit talking behind the, I hate them and I hate them. But listen, we all got to live in this world. Forgive me for going on a monologue.
No, I don't care.
But I'm telling you,
I'm glad.
We need to take a hard look at ourselves and we really, really need to, whatever we explore, we need to explore it properly. But scientists are good people, man. And I don't make my living doing science anymore. So I can say that with no bias. They're good people, 99.9% of them. And then those bad apples, excuse my language, but fuck them.
Oh, for sure, fuck them.
Because they ruin it all for everybody.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it also leads to impairment. It leads to disease. It leads to, atrocities that happen to people, and it's usually for the sake of profit. Do you believe that big pharma would lobby against certain tests being done or residual testing, re-examination of past findings, et cetera, in order to keep things a certain way?
Okay, so
does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So two things about big pharma. First of all, I don't have any direct links to big pharma. People think because I'm at Stanford, I've been accused of being part of MK Ultra. Yeah. I don't even know what that is, but sounds scary.
Oh, I don't know, dude.
What's MK Ultra?
Jets fucking lost.
I've been told I'm a CIA plant. MK Ultra. I mean, this stuff is crazy.
Oh, dude, somebody told me I went to the Middle East or something. Somebody said I was working for something, Bangladesh or something. I was like, dude, I've never had anybody ask me to do anything.
I wasn't even born. I was born in 75.
Yeah, well.
So big pharma look, they're a business. Okay. So there are drugs like SSRIs, which we will say have been not so helpful for the treatment of depression for most people. But guess what? SSRIs are tremendously helpful for people with OCD. Real OCD is a condition where the compulsion, the behavior makes the obsession worse. Imagine a mosquito bite. Every time you scratch it, it itches worse and worse and worse. Destroys lives. SSRIs have helped those people a lot. The drug companies are highly incentivized to keep drugs out of generic so that the prices come down. They do a game. I know this because I was involved in exploring drugs for eye disease years ago, and I would learn from these companies. If you can have a drug that goes through all the research and development, costs millions of dollars, and then is used, say, for the treatment of a heart condition, if you can bypass the need to do all the safety studies because you discovered that that drug is now also useful for, say, preserving vision in macular degeneration or glaucoma or diabetes, whatever, you save yourself a lot of money. Same drug, you maintain the patent, and you can't have generic competitors. So drug companies, I don't think people talk about this enough, are highly incentivized to not discover new drugs, but rather to continue with the same drugs and find new uses for the same drugs.
Wow.
That's rarely talked about. That's a serious problem. The other thing about drug companies
Because the negative side effect of that is what? That something gets kind of shoehorned in and working for something, but the
very expensive drugs for everybody. Because if you look at the difference between there are these new sleep medications called the DORAs. They shut down the wakefulness system as opposed to making you sleepy. They have a lot less abuse potential. They're like $300 a month. And as long as they can maintain the patent on that, there won't be the generic version because it probably costs, the profit margins on these things are huge because they're trying to cover the research and development they did. There's, so that's just one example. But the drug companies are incentivized. Yeah, the DORAs. Okay, I've tried them. I felt lousy.
And is that like Ambien or whatever?
No. So Ambien is a problem because it can give you memory issues. This works through something called the hypocretin-orexin system. It was discovered in narcoleptic dogs in the basement of Stanford, believe it or not. There's all sorts of cool stuff there. But the drug companies are a concern in one sense, which is that, look, dopamine, as we learned, is involved in movement. It's involved in reward. Schizophrenics take drugs to block dopamine. And if you see someone on the street corner, nowadays it's complicated with fentanyl, but you see the person kind of writhing. It's called tardive dyskinesia. That's because those drugs, the neuroleptics, as we call them, reduce the auditory hallucinations. They relieve a lot of those symptoms of schizophrenia, but it also hits dopamine in the spinal system, the motor system, and then they have these motor side effects. So the problem is most pharmaceuticals have side effects because most chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, they're in multiple places in the brain, not just the area that you're concerned about repairing. So, I'm not super anti-big pharma, but I will say I am very pro self-directed healthcare. This is why I'm, a big part of my initiative with the podcast is get people getting sunlight in their eyes in the evening, get some sunlight in your eyes in the morning, sunlight in your eyes in the morning, hydrate, exercise, get on a normal circadian rhythm. One of the most important things for mental health is bright mornings and days, dark nights.
And how do you get on that circadian rhythm, man? That's something that I've struggled with. I think my circadian rhythm is, I'm going to turn into a cicada.
Well, we got to get you some of the red lens glasses. I'm not doing a promotional here, but getting the screens dim or wearing red lens glasses in the evening to block the blue and green lights.
But how to even set up a circadian rhythm?
Well, bright light in the morning. If you wake up and the sun's out, get outside, take that brimmed hat off, take the sunglasses off, look in the direction of the sun. You don't have to force yourself to get 5 to 15 minutes of sunlight. Drink your coffee, get some exercise, maybe even do like 100 jumping jacks, get your system going. Very simple way to put this is early in the day, you want movement, caffeine, hydration, sunlight. If you can't get sunlight, you get bright light from like an artificial light. You can get a 10,000 lux light on Amazon for like $100. I have no relationship to any of those companies. Get your morning kind of going. It's hard to be Jocko Willink. It's hard, but you got to kind of force a little bit of that on yourself. And then in the afternoon, taper off the caffeine, dim the screens, lower your heart rate, do some long exhale breathing, just take it down a notch. And over about 3 days of doing that, what you'll find is I start to wake up in anticipation of the day. You have this circadian rhythm that learns, well, I'm going to be active in a few hours, and you start waking up in the morning at a particular time. That whole phenomenon, you set your clock for 7 a.m. and you wake up at 6:59, your brain is clocking time.
So does that mean you need to go to bed at like 8 p.m. for a week to get your circadian rhythm set, or what's the truth there?
Everyone's slightly different chronotypes. So I do best, for instance, I know if I had total control, going to bed sometime between 10 and 11 p.m. and I wake up around 6 a.m. Okay, yes, I can go to bed at 9 and wake up at 4, but I can't stick to that schedule very long. My system just genetically is not wired for it. Some people are real night owls. They do best going to sleep at 2 a.m. and waking up at 10. They just feel better. Try a couple different schedules for at least 3 days. And then wherever you feel kind of most yourself, kind of like, for me, going to bed by 10:30 and waking up by 6 is kind of a natural antidepressant. When I sleep in and go to bed late, I start feeling off. Then I start abusing caffeine because I love caffeine. Love caffeine.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a big fan of caffeine.
I like it, baby.
But then I start abusing it. I start taking too much, and then, and then it, potentially can drift into other stimulants.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're a mess. So, but some people do really well going to bed at 8:30 and waking up at 4 a.m. But look, the world is not really wired for that. If you're going to have any kind of social life,
like Mark Wahlberg or something, he's always has things like, I wake up at 3.
Well, him and Ari Emanuel from WME, those guys are like the 4 a.m. club. They're like texting each other and like up. I get texts from Ari every once in a while. He's like, man, up early. He's hyperbaric chamber, but he's got like 12 cylinders. That guy is like go. And listen, some people need more sleep than others. I do great on 6 or 6.5. When I sleep 8, I actually feel more groggy.
Ooh.
So if you get your schedule right, you don't need quite as much sleep. But before I came out here today, I did a half hour, what I call, it used to be called yoga nidra. It's non-sleep deep rest, NSDR. You just do long exhale breathing. You listen to a script. You relax your body. The data show you come out of that with your dopamine levels 60% higher than you went into it. It replenishes your vigor.
Yoga Nidra?
Yeah, well, yoga nidra or NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. And these are zero cost tools, right?
Got it.
So
how many milligrams of caffeine are you taking a day? Are you usually taking a day?
You ready for this?
Yeah.
All right, a normal cup of coffee would be about 200 milligrams of strong coffee. I consume about 800 milligrams of caffeine a day. I drink, I'm half Argentine, so I drink yerba mate.
Oh,
a cold brew, zero sugar yerba mate, or I drink yerba mate out the gourd. If you're gonna drink yerba mate, don't get the sugary kind. Nope, get the loose leaf. No, I have a yerba mate brand. It's not that one. So
homie.
Ours is Matina, which is, I'm not going to do a promotional here, but the point here is that if you like energy drinks, you like yerba mate, you like coffee, I'm like, more power to you.
There's 200 in a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and what's in one of these?
What's
200 milligrams. So there was actually a study just published on taurine that everyone's worried about, but that study was in vitro. I need to see a lot of data. There's a lot of data actually that taurine is beneficial for the heart, and it has kind of an anti-aging thing. It's in a lot of energy drinks, including
it's like a lysine and a taurine.
I love caffeine. I mean, man, caffeine and nicotine. Right now I'm kind of easing back on it. The delivery mechanism matters. You don't want to smoke, vape, dip, or snuff. You get cancer. People go, oh, well, vaping's not bad. Popcorn lung is real. People hate me for saying this. Vaping is bad. Not as bad as smoking. Vaping ain't good for you.
And what flavor is the worst flavor? Any flavor?
It's all bad for you, man. But the gums and the pouches, provided it's a low dose, it's very habit forming, but 3 to 6 milligrams or something on occasion. This is the problem. People go to, pretty soon they're doing a whole canister a day.
Oh yeah.
But
I got a buddy got a fucking mouthful of my buddy, like damn Cotton Eye Joe over there.
Nicotine's a very interesting drug because it's a stimulant, but it relaxes you too. But it does cause vasoconstriction. And that's not good for all the stuff we were talking about earlier.
No.
You want blood flow to the brain and to your extremities, And so some nicotine early in the day, little bit, no big deal with caffeine to get work done. Remember, effort that precedes dopamine in constructive areas of life, writing, comedy, podcasting, school, sports, socializing in healthy ways. Like, this is good.
Can you get just as much dopamine from doing those positive things as you can from doing things that we would consider, that sometimes add a level of disappointment or shame? And maybe shame is not the word I want to use. But.
Yes, you can. It just, you need to be more determined and focused on it. Remember, it's how quickly the dopamine comes in with porn and methamphetamine, cocaine, and all of that. It's how quickly gambling raises dopamine. The stuff we're talking about, work, focus, learning, all that, it's work. I mean, it's hard work, but the effort that precedes dopamine is a completely different beast because you're in control and it doesn't put you in the trough. But I did see I guess we don't call them tweets now. What do we call them? On X, some guy made $1 billion and a couple weeks later he said, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like I'm suicidally depressed. And I just said, it's dopamine. He got the reward. And what he misses is the hunt. You have to stay in the hunt. This is like the will to live is the hunt for new things.
The will to live. 31-year-old guy who sells his startup for 100 million shares, why he is depressed and how to think about your career and life. I sold my company, MVMT. I know that company. They made watches, right? A few years ago for a lot of money and thought all my problems would be solved. I made my life really cushy and comfortable. I optimize for being as stress-free as possible. I play video games when I want. I wake up when I want and really have no reason to get out of bed if I don't want to. I always thought this was a dream and I'd be happy forever. I realize I'm in an incredibly unique situation and wanted to share some things I've learned and am still working through.
I mean, for you, and forgive me, I've been monologuing a bit because I just want to make sure I blast through some of this info that hopefully people can make to use.
Talk about it again, too.
But I, for you, right, you've got the podcast. You do your comedy tours. I'm not a comedian, but I love going to see live comedy.
Oh, yeah, it's fun.
And I just have to imagine that staying busy in pursuit has got to be super important to your overall well-being.
What's funny you say it. I think it's like, yeah, I didn't know that I liked to work really. I mean, I knew that I was persistent maybe and I liked comedy. But then like as other things have started to arise and like learning the podcast and then you're running a business and then, I like to work. I really enjoy it. I think I'm probably competitive in some ways.
Do you have I'm not going to ask you to tell us, but do you have a couple of comedians in your mind that like, you're like, I can best that, or is it besting against yourself?
Oh no, I think it's just, can you still make yourself laugh? That's my thing.
What's your writing? I'm very curious about this. What's your writing process?
Oh, I'll talk to somebody. Usually I'm trying to talk with a gal and entertain her, or talk with one of my buddies and entertain them. And there's something that'll get said that's just kind of like, oh, that's perfect, man. So that's kind of how I'll do it. And then I'll put it on a stage from there, and I'll record my sets and I've started to put some of them into like Chat GPT or AI so it can like show me what was new during this one or the last one and learn little intricacies and things like that, things that worked and things that changed.
Do you get ideas in your dreams? Do you ever wake up laughing?
Ayahuasca, I've gotten ideas. I got like some good bits.
How often are you doing ayahuasca?
Maybe every 18 months. I'm kind of due again to do something like that. I want to talk to this guy, Brian Hubbard, I believe is his name, who does the Ibogaine. He talks about Ibogaine.
I can't take any credit for that project, but my colleague at Stanford, Nolan Williams, triple board certified psychiatrist and neurologist, he's the one running the brain imaging of the veterans that Brian has been bringing down to Mexico to do the Ibogaine DMT work.
Wow.
And Nolan has discovered there are these changes in brain areas like the insula, which are involved in kind of self-reflection, self-body relationship, all sorts of things. The data from those studies are incredible. I mean, these tier 1 operators, which is code for have to be ready in 24 hours to go overseas and kill their high risk, high consequence work. The number of those guys I've talked to that were dependent on alcohol, drugs, and other substances that go down there and do it once or twice and never even feel the desire to use again is just striking. Yeah, the Ibogaine sounds amazing. I also hear it's terrifying. A couple of those guys told me, and they have a high bar for this. A couple of those guys have told me it is the most terrifying experience of their entire life.
What?
But also brought them the most amount of peace. Well, it's a 22-hour psychedelic journey, followed by DMT.
Are you asleep during it?
No, you're awake. And what I hear is that you don't hallucinate when your eyes are open, but when you close your eyes, you get high definition recall of previous experiences, but you have agency. You can act differently in there and rewire. I've never done it. I'm very curious to do. I've never done ayahuasca. I have had some incredibly beneficial clinical experiences with MDMA and with psilocybin. And it's just complete. I don't encourage kids to do it, but you need a really good practitioner. You have to find a way to do it legally, and there are ways.
There's a lot of
it is a game changer.
A lot of bootleg stuff going on out there, but I do think that it's like getting back to nature, getting back to the roots, and literally you're getting back to the roots of like what can reorganize. I think the nature inside of us that gets so rattled by us maneuvering it and existing in the world. I don't know how we manage to damage our own nature so much over time.
Well, maybe it's instead of saying lesbians will save us all, it's lesbians and psychedelics will save us all. That's kind of my new campaign.
Man, dude, look at this guy right here.
Yeah,
That's Rick Rubin.
I was saying earlier, that's me when it comes to being able to see clearly along certain dimensions of life. But that's when you come to rely on good friends and you do your work, your inner journey work, and figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fascinating, and I think just the fact that we can
I get a copy of that?
This thing is awesome,
man.
How'd y'all get that?
Just ChatGPT.
Oh, it's so great.
Cock a monkey blindfolded on LSD.
Yeah. Sometimes I've looked at decisions I've made in my life and go, I pretty much had the clarity that guy right there had.
Yeah.
And but in other areas of my life, like the decision to go into skateboarding and leave, the decision to pursue science and then podcasting, and my life's a dream, man.
Yeah.
Like I can't tell you, people will think I'm just trying to puff you up, but like to be sitting here talking to you, I'm a fan. To be able
thanks, man.
to explore ideas and to learn from such a diverse array of people. Like I love talking to scientists, but I love talking to comedians and creatives, and like my childhood hero became one of my best friends because he heard the podcast and
really?
Yeah. It's kind of embarrassing to say, but Tim Armstrong, the singer for Rancid and the Transplants, he has that band with Rob Aston and Travis Barker. Tim's like my hero, and we've become very good friends. He's a real life poet. He's an incredible musician. He's produced a ton of music for others. He's a very, soft spoken. He's a true music producer and performer.
That's fascinating.
And he's one of my best friends.
That's like me and David Spade. I just can't even believe that we're buddies, and
Yeah.
that I get to ask him about stuff or even listen to him tell jokes over dinner. Sometimes things like that, like not to name drop, but yeah, it just blows your mind. Some of the people you get to come across,
Well, and for people listening, I have to say, like, I used to watch watch things and read and listen to podcasts, and like I wanted to be part of it, but like being myself, and that's really the key. Rick always says this. He's like, the way to succeed in any genre that you're interested in is to be you, because no one's done that yet. The moment you try and be like the other guy, or the other gal, is when it falls flat, right? The reason Tony Hawk's Tony Hawk is because he's a pioneer and he just kept going. There's only one of him.
Yeah.
And there are others in skateboarding and others in podcasting, but like it's like that trust in self. You just have to, if you just show up you and do your personal work too. I do think, journaling, meditation, working out,
maybe it's a relationship with you.
Yeah. And you just show up you. Yeah. So I think we got the answer to your initial question. Why is podcasting what it is because like we just show up. We didn't have a template. There's no script, nothing. We just show up.
Just a couple guys in their closet, man.
Yeah, we're talking about finger lengths and lesbians and monkeys on LSD and measles vaccine and some of the biggest issues in public health. And your name was mentioned in a moment of praise at the inauguration of the President of the United States.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We are living, I don't think we're living in a simulation. I think what's so freaking awesome about this life is it's real. Not that it's fake. It's all the shit that's real that blows my mind.
And just, I think what you can be called upon to be a part of, and taking agency, having some more agency. The biggest thing I notice in my life is how do I get to know myself better and get to utilize myself better? And not just for me, but for and really to listen to God better. How do I learn to have a relationship with something that's bigger than me so that I can get better direction, and better peace at times, because God's not just there for direction. I believe that he's also there, for reflection and for rest, and just to be able to, I don't know.
Do you pray every day?
I pray every day. Yeah.
Me too. I'm a scientist, but I'm a believer. I've always believed in God, and I used to hide praying because I grew up in a complicated home religiously. We've got a real mixed family, but also like the attitudes about religion very mixed. Some very positive, some not positive. But a few years ago, a friend of mine who was a former Tier 1 operator and he's run some of my security stuff, he encouraged me to start reading the Bible. And I was like, wow, there's so much wisdom here. And then he encouraged me to start praying. And I know people are some people roll their eyes. Some people will be like, get it immediately. When you start praying before sleeping in the morning, I prayed right before I came in here. Yeah. In the bathroom, I literally get on my knees and pray before anything important this morning, at night. And people go, how can you be a scientist and believe in God? And it's like, well, easy, because as a scientist, you learn that even as let's just say a vision scientist, There are animals that can see parts of the visual spectrum that we can't see. UV light, infrared light, pit vipers can see it. Mosquitoes see things we don't see. So the moment you start just thinking, wait, our human brain can understand and make sense of certain things, but not others through logic and reasoning and emotion, you go, well, there's this not just possibility of an entire set of energies out there that we're not aware of.
Oh,
it's absolutely certain. And then you go, well, that's a big leap to the idea that there's a guy or, and his son is the, is Christ, and Christ was resurrected. But when you start reading the stories and you start like looking at our real world experience, you go, so much of this makes sense. And it doesn't make nature and science any less interesting. It makes it more interesting. It makes it and more important. It's like we're here. I believe that we're here to like access that energy, allow it come through us.
Yeah.
I don't think like we podcast. I think energy comes through us and we podcast.
Oh, I think the funnest thing sometimes is like getting an idea, because I'm like, this didn't come from me.
Right.
What the hell am I doing? I'm just like something out here that's trying to position myself to be the best receptor. It's almost like when you're trying to like put those dog ears out for a television or whatever, or like an old black and white TV, and you're trying to pick up the signal. It's like, I'm just trying to best get myself in situation to receive a decent signal.
Do you believe, yesterday
okay.
I was in a conversation with a Stanford and Harvard trained psychiatrist, one of the smartest people I know. And he said to me, he said, him talking, he said, I believe in miracles. He's like, there are miracles. And I was like, really? And he explained a case of a patient, like, there is no way this person should still be alive, let alone flourishing as they are. The number of things that had to organize for that to work out. And, so I'm kind of obsessed these days with like this notion of miracles.
Oh, I love that. Have you considered, because we will sometimes interview people who have had a miracle experience happen to them, and it's really fascinating sometimes just to hear some of their stories. It's something I would like to do more. One of the things I want to do is just, I want to come over to your pod, man, next time I'm in town.
Let's do it.
And we can do this again sometime. I feel like we only got to talk about a few things, but that's perfect. It'll give us more stuff to talk about in the future. And just thank you, Andrew, for just being a good voice. You have a lot to say, and you share information well. And it's like, I think we're at a time where people just need to have information that isn't compromised by like a bank or an advertiser that's telling someone they have to speak a certain way, unless it's an advertisement where you're reading for Tecovas or for liquid.
Yeah, because she was born in 1804. Oh, well, then, yeah, don't know her. Think about that. What about Big Samuel? Big Samuel with the braids? He got the French braids, and he always selling bags of yeast down there by the river. Yeasty Sam. No, I don't. Where's he from? Oh, he's from, by the riverbanks. No, how old is he? He's about 25. He was born in 1834. Oh, well, don't know him. Can't know him. And this is wild. What if your best friend, isn't even born yet? They're going to be born in 2 years. And so you missing out because y'all's time isn't synced up. Think about that. So next thing you know, you middling around a preschool, and people like, hey, hey, Judy, what you doing out here by the preschool? And Judy says, oh, well, little Cecilia right there, the 4-year-old, I think we got vibes, friendship vibes, buddies, vajuddies, teamwork, team tits, hashtaggers, friendship. And they're like, oh, nah, you 25 years older than her, so you can't hang out here. Gonna call the police. Timing is so important. Timing is important. And you never know. Sometimes you might miss your best friend because the timing wasn't right. Your best friend might be 4 and you might be 61. But y'all, and now you can't even be friends with somebody because the law says it's fucked up, or the law says it's wrong. It's wrong if a senior citizen wants to be buddies with a 7-year-old, with somebody that's in 2nd grade, and wants to, hang out with them on the weekends or whatever and do cigarettes or whatever. It's interesting. Timing, how important it is. I'll tell you about this timing. So I just crossed the international date line, and I thought it was going to be a really good episode hosted by Lester Holt, but it isn't. It is a line. Let me research it for you real quick. International date line. Here's what it is. It was established in 1884. It passes through the mid-Pacific Ocean and follows a 180 degrees longitude north-south line on the Earth. So that means it's up and down. It's long. It's top to bottom. It's a horizontal. No, it's vertical line. It's located halfway around the world from the prime meridian. And when you cross it, the day changes. Well, it's an imaginary line. Also, it's not really real. So you can't get out there and, you're not going to see a big Twizzler running from the North Pole to the South Pole or something. You're not going to see, any buoys or anything like that. Or, a guy out there with a whistle pointing, Thursday this way, Wednesday that way. It's where the day changes. Anyway, I crossed it when I flew to Australia and back. And I'm now back here in the U.S., on U.S. soil. And I'm back here, I'm in a new studio. We're in a new studio. So if you're on the YouTubes, this is different. It's different in here. We have more space. Hello? Might sound different in the back when I yell hello and nobody's listening. So just, some changes going on. I walked in, I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I walk in and I'm in my mind, it's like, oh, well, it's just going to be, it's going to feel suddenly like home, and it's going to be, nothing, everything will be kind of set up and everything will be, but it's, we have a couch that, premature Nick, he got it on a, so we have some furniture. We got a chair. We have a couple bags. Had some croissants somebody had that are empty now from the coffee bean. Couple sea bags, couple croissant bags. And we have a lot of empty space and a lot of possibility. Those are the things that we have in here. So yeah, just a lot going on at the second. Being in a new place, getting home, having to come into the studio and decide, okay, do I want to be confident when I get in here? Because Nick's here, Gianni is here with their new movie. His new movie is out now, the movie Ma, M-A, and go see it. It's basically it's like fraternities meet kind of interracial dating, I think is what it is. It's kind of like what is that called? It's like Kappa, Apartheid, Alpha, Omega, or something like that. It's like, yeah, it's just, it's got kind of I heard it's really good. It's scary. We'll see. I'm going to go check it out. But we're definitely excited that, to support him and be supportive of him. But yeah, man, I got in here and I just did it. I was like, man, okay, do I be nervous? Do I just be confident? Do I walk in here and act like, okay, I know everything we're going to do? And Nick and Gianni had already been here. They moved stuff in, so they've had a little more acquaintance, and they were just excited. They were excited about the opportunity. And so, I just tried to ride their excitement, because honestly, just a little bit scared, I guess. Like taking on new responsibility. The rent in here is twice as much. the walls don't look the same. Not to mention the other place is gone. The other studio is not, everything's out of there. So it still exists like in a location inside of us, and in our memory and in time, but it doesn't exist the same anymore right now. And so we're in something new. It's like we're traveling. Like when a baby comes out the body. When a baby comes out the body, think about all of that. First, the baby's been in there getting jacked up on that mom sauce, whatever mom's been having. Sweet potatoes, chocolate, pickles, a little bit of frickin' gin, maybe a little bit of Von Meyer's rum or something at night. Especially if it's wintertime, a little bit of that, what is that, egg batter and cognac or whatever, the eggnog. So the baby, when they decide to leave the womb, it's a brave move. Because it's basically, they're in there, laying up in there. It's like being at the Hampton Inn. But the room kind of, but the maid hadn't come and cleaned your room in a while. And they got a lot of, when you're the baby, you're in that little Hampton Inn inside of your mother. They got the Fessies over there, and they got the, just a bunch of Pizza Hut little, boxes from all the snacks you've been having. You got to go. And then you slide out of your mother out into the world, and it's a new experience. And that's where we are right now in this new experience. So, yeah, just nervous, excited for the opportunity, hopeful. I think I had a moment where I was like, oh, wow, I'm part of I really have to be more part of a team right now. Then I'm just, because I need help. I need help from my coworkers. And I'm just, I'm grateful to have them. Man, I just got back from Australia, and I got to say it was amazing. The last show, they had 3,000 people in Brisbane, Australia. And man, I'm trying to think of like what it feels. I don't know. It feels like you can't thank everybody enough. It feels like, you walk out there. I felt like damn Joel Osteen out there. I felt like I wish I had a big water gun full of holy water and just filling people's mouths up from 50 yards away. Just pressure washing the devil off of people. It was just, it was interesting. And then it's hard to tell if people are laughing as much when it's in a big space, but I got such a great response just from people over social media. And then we went to the koala park and saw the koalas and saw the kangaroos. And if you never seen a kangaroo, it's kind of like the first time somebody tells you, oh, that's your cousin or your second cousin. Or they introduce you to your uncle that you never met. And you're like, damn. Uncle Ronnie got some short arms and a big ass, Oh, dang. Uncle Ronnie's out there eating leaves off of the shrubbery. Like, damn. It made me. I was shocked that their species. I was shocked that we're all have atoms in us that are similar, because a kangaroo is like something. It's basically a kangaroo is like the El Camino of the animal kingdom. It's got a I don't know what it is. It's got like a dragon tail. It's got the body of a kind of like a thick girl, like a real thick bitch that likes to fight. Kind of like a thick girl that doesn't, that likes to thumb wrestle real heavily with others. And then it's got the head of like a kind of a dog, like a Doberman, like a lean Doberman that's on keto diet, sugar-free Doberman, that SFD. And it blows your mind. You're like, holy shit, this is an animal now? And that's Australia. It's got unique animals. It's got unique animals. And you know what? One thing I loved about Australia, I'll say this. Australia is, if there's a country that I've visited that I could go easily see myself to live in, it would be Australia. And then one of the things that I loved is that they still have a strong sense of being Australian, it feels like. It felt like to me. This is my perception. And at the airport, you could still go say bye to your loved ones, or you could meet somebody at the gate. So it was just really beautiful because you still see like a lot of like what it means to travel and be somewhere new. Like in America, you can't see that anymore. I remember when I was young, your mom could walk you to the gate and watch you cry in the little tunnel as you flew off to meet grandma. And that's natural. You know, if you're a child and you're about to fly 4 hours to see some senior citizens, I mean, that'll bring a tear to anybody's eye. And especially if your step grandfather is addicted to Marlboro Reds and he does them indoors and shit, and you can't eat, you know. So right after dessert, right after a couple cups of pudding at grandma's, you got to sit there and get that secondhand smoke off of Poppy. But yeah, man, one of the things about that is when you see people hug at the gate and you see people like say goodbye to each other at the gate, like you could in Australia, you see like human affection, you see human interaction, and it makes you it gives like more of a meaning to what travel is. And so I would see that at the different places. And we flew, I think we had maybe 7 flights or 6 flights within the country once we got there. And you're like, oh, wow, this person is coming to see someone. This person is leaving someone they care about. And it reminded me of that time in the U.S. when you could do that. You could go to the gate and greet somebody and greet a loved one. You didn't have to have a ticket. You could still be there to see them come or to see them go. And I miss that. It just added so much more meaning to travel. It added so much more meaning to coming and going. Because you saw others, you know, just to see somebody say goodbye to someone. It's like, oh, wow, that's human interaction. That's connection. To see somebody give a kiss to somebody that they you know, maybe they're not going to see them for, you know, a couple weeks or a couple months or who knows how long. And in your mind, you process, oh, I wonder if they, you know, if this is their first time, their first weekend that they ever hung out and it was great and now one of them's leaving, or if they've been together for years and one of them's leaving. You get to see a kid get to the gate and run up and his uncle is there to give him a big hug, and, you know, or the grandpa and grandma are there. See him hug the baby and lift up the baby for the first time. You get to see that. And it just, you know, I think that's when something happened in America years ago, when something changed a lot, was right around that time. And I feel like it was after 9/11 when that things just got a lot stricter and a lot more serious. And we started to take out some of the things that reminded us how human we are. But that's one thing I loved about Australia, was seeing that. That's one of honestly my favorite things about the country, was just seeing that, getting to see that at the airports when we get in and when we leave. It was just, I don't know. I liked it. You know, I liked seeing humans be able to, I don't know, just express some of their feelings and have a space to do that, or just, I don't know. It reminded me that I was human a little bit more. It reminded me that I was amongst others. Just seeing connection and seeing, it just, I don't know. It was something different. It was something that I wasn't used to. You know, I saw some exotic animals, but one of the most exotic things I saw was people displaying human interaction in public, at the airport flight gates. What else was my experience like? Man, I just have so much going through my head right now. Like, I can't even tell you, just being in this place, and just a lot of cool stuff. But thank you so much to everybody. You know, we went to Perth, know if you've been to Perth or not in Australia, but it's basically, it's like somebody, it almost looked like it went out of business and then they just restarted it back up. And we went to Brisbane. Where else? Oh, we went to Adelaide. That was wild. It was like kind of a sleepy town. I couldn't tell what place was kind of like what. Like if this city's more like Chicago, or if this city's more like New York, or if this city's more like Tampa. I think I needed more time. People think a lot of times that the trip, when you're touring, doing a shows, that it's like vacation. It's not. It's work. It's a lot of come and go. And I just want to thank so many nice people reached out and brought gifts. There's still a couple gifts that people brought me to the last show that I haven't even opened up yet. Some nice t-shirts. Some MMA guys came, and one of them had a move called the hard scarf that, this guy in my neighborhood used to put people in. Somebody wore a R.I.P. Billy Conforto shirt. It was next level, man. It was next level. I just can't believe it. I'm like, how did all these people know that I was coming? I mean, I know they know because like the podcast and because of social media, but it just didn't add up really into my head like that this many people would be here. And so I just want to say thank you. And we did it. We did it. That's one thing I'm realizing when I walk on that stage, and that there's people out there, is that we did this. And that if you are somebody who is wondering if you can do something that you want to do, I'm not like preaching at you or anything, but honestly, man, I've doubted myself every step along the way. I've doubted myself. And I still doubt myself. But I'm doing it. But I haven't really stopped my feet from moving forward. And I'm not telling you that to preach at you or anything. I'm just trying to find a way to share some of my experience in case there's somebody like me, who wonders, well, what do I do? If I want to do, chase a dream or do this or do that. And there's a little voice inside of you, whatever it is, that will tell you the right thing to do next. Or it'll convince you from time to time. And sometimes that little voice might even be the voice of somebody outside of you that catches your frequency and yeah, just, I don't know. I think I'm sounding kind of preachy. Oh, let's take a call. Actually, you know what? I want to talk about this. On this past tour, I was out of town for 3 weeks, and I want to thank you guys for putting up with everything while we were out of the studio. And, it's, one thing I noticed was I was, they had a tour manager. So somebody like kind of meets you along the tour and takes you from one city to the next, and just make sure you kind of know what's going on in each place, especially since it's international. And I realized, like, I found myself getting real antsy with the tour management group, and they were great. I just noticed about myself, like, man, I would get real short with them. When I'd see them in the morning, I would be like just kind of like a cranky kid. And I was thinking, like, what the fuck is going on, man? Like, I don't behave this way. What is going on? And I started to realize it took me probably the first 4 cities. I think they didn't really know what, like, by the end of the day, I would be nicer. But in the beginning, I was just so, like, I was just short with people. I wouldn't look them in the eyes. And I wasn't, like, I was being mean, right? But I wasn't doing it on purpose. I was just uncomfortable. I just didn't feel good, and I knew that I was not feeling good. I just didn't know what to do. And I started to realize that I don't like it when people have to help me. Like, I don't like getting help from other people. You know, I want to do stuff on my own. Like, I can do it. That's what I think to myself. I don't need help. I can do this. You know, I don't want anybody to help me. You know, I don't need anybody. I can do it better, or I can do it. And I'm just kind of talking about that because, you know, I needed help. I just didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to. I don't know. I just always been so used to doing things for myself that I didn't want to say that I couldn't do them for myself, or that I wanted to even let somebody else have the opportunity to help me. I didn't want anybody to have the opportunity to help me. Because if you help me, then somehow that's like a weakness of mine. If you help me, then it shows me that I'm capable of like connecting. Then I'm at a weakness, because I'm trying to get these words right. If I let you help me, why don't I like people helping me? Because I can do it myself. And if you realize if I let you see that I can't do it myself, or if I let you help me, then I'm trying to get my feelings hooked to my words. Sorry if this is kind of all over the place, but this is just something that's really been really hit me on this trip, because I never had this type of experience. You know, I just didn't want to look people in the eyes. I didn't want to, like, if you were helping me, I didn't want you to see the look in my eyes that showed that I knew you were helping me. I was keeping that to myself. Like, I didn't want to be someone who needs help, because to me it was like a weakness, you know. It was like it gave you like an ability to connect with me that I just wasn't ready for. You know, I'm fine with being friends. I'm fine with, you know, joking around. I'm fine with having fun. But when it came to a moment where I needed you because you knew something that I didn't, or that when it came to a moment where I was going to show you that I couldn't help myself, or that was a moment I just couldn't do. I couldn't do those moments where it looked like I couldn't fend for myself. I don't know. I know some of that's all over the place, and I'm sorry, but I was really just trying to figure it out. I just don't like that. You know, I like to be able to do things. I'm just so used to it. Like, I think at a level even inside of me, in the fabric of me, like in the stitching of my core. You know, I think I just realized at a certain point in my life, you know, at a youthful point that, or something, or even when I was a zygote, that I'm going to have to do this myself. And that's what I'm going to do. And so I'm never not going to do that. It's almost like I made a deal with myself. Like, I'm never not going to do this myself. And so now that the touring gets a little different and people are on board and people are helping, it's like, it's really tough for me to let somebody help me. That's one thing I've kind of realized. It's really, really tough for me to let somebody help me. And it I almost have an adverse reaction to it. Because if I show you that I need help from you, then that means that it gives you an ability to connect with me, and that's scary to me, I think. So that's why I think, I don't know, some of this stuff I need to do a little bit more of work on and think about, but it was just something that was heavily on my mind, so I wanted to share it with you guys. But thank you so much to everybody in Australia that came out. I'm happy to be back home. I have some jet lag. I just literally about 7 minutes ago just got hit by jet lag pretty heavy, which is a tough thing to try and explain how you're feeling at the same time. And I'm sorry for taking you guys down that wormhole, but I wish I knew exactly what I was thinking more. But man, it really hurts me somewhere to admit that I need help, or to admit that I'm not doing something by myself. It just makes me feel scared. It's a scary thing. And I didn't know that until I was on this experience. And I'm in another country, and there's a group of people that are helping out, and they're helping, and I'm just, I was so upset, and I couldn't figure out why. And I wasn't upset with the audience or like the shows, or there wasn't anything like that. It was all just, behind the scenes. And so I'm grateful that the tour manager and their company like put up with me for a couple of days while I figured it out. And then I started going to some different 12-step meetings, and it helped me kind of calm down and get into a better space. But anyway, enough about that, man. I want to take a couple of calls that came in. Here we go.
Yo, Theo, man, this is Christian calling from Ohio.
What's up, Christian? Over there in Ohio. Thank you for calling, man. Onward.
I am 40 years old, and you said something not that long ago, but you said something like, I'm afraid to let myself grow up without the things I always wanted because they're not there. And it made me think a lot. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of things that I thought I would have by the time I'm 40, or things that I thought I would do. And trying to stand up was always something that was a bucket list item, but I never really thought, I don't know, I felt like it was something I would have to work a long time to be able to do one time. And yeah, man, I wanted to give it a shot. So tonight, we got about 5 minutes. And yeah, man, I'm going to give it a go. So I want to thank you for the inspiration and the laughs and all that. So, yeah.
Word, man. Well, thank you for calling in with that, dude. Good luck with that first time. Wow. Yeah, look, I think sometimes it's like, we create we have these stories that get built into us that we can't do certain things. I was just talking with a friend of mine yesterday who, she's going on a vacation, and she just spent, like $5,000 to go on a vacation, which is a big sum of money. And it's a vacation, and she said, I never knew if I could. She's like, as I'm spending the money, she's like, something felt wrong about it. And she's like, it felt wrong because I was spending the money on something that I wanted to do for myself, and not spending the money on just some, like, oh, you have to save for this, or you have to save for that, or you have to have this savings plan, or it was like against the norm. It was just me spending money on something that I wanted for myself. Even a good experience like travel. Like, you can't just up and travel for a month. And she's like, yes, I can. She's like, and as I did it, it just felt so wrong, but at the same time, it just felt so kind of perfect. Like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to do things that I want to do in the world. I'm supposed to do new experiences. I'm not just supposed to save every dime and put it away in this shoebox, or put it away for this and have safekeeping and never try the things I always wanted to try. And it really hit me. I was like, wow, that's so interesting. When you spend money on something that you kind of want sometimes, especially like a thing like travel, or a musical instrument, or doing something that you've always wanted to do, but that's out of the societal norm, it feels foreign almost to us. Because sometimes we get built into this world where it's like, oh, this is the next thing. Oh, you go finish school, then you go to college, then you get this, and then you get a job, and then you get another job, and then it's like, well, what if we didn't do it that way? What if one day I just said to my boss, hey, I'm going to go for a month and travel, which is what my friend is doing. She said, I'm going to go for a month and travel, and then I bought the ticket, and next thing you know, I feel like I'm wandering out into a whole different world of interaction with life than I have been previously, because I'm doing something that I want to do. But yeah, like you said, it's like you think it can take, you thought stand up was something you had to try, work at for a long time just to get up and even try. Dude, I remember I drove across the causeway about 30 miles I've been upset my whole life that my dad was so old when I was born. And I've been making fun of him in my head to make me feel okay about him being so old. And then I just stood up on stage and started telling jokes about it. And so it was just, and everybody has their own experience, but getting up and talking about something that's just been running around in your head, a lot of the work for trying stand-up has already been done. You've been alive. That's the research. The research for doing stand-up and the practice is being alive. Now, the repetition is something that takes, time, but the ability for you to do it, to have the gunpowder, that's already packed inside of you. And the microphone, that's the flint. And that's what's going to light it. But let's hear the rest of your call. Thank you for calling in, Christian.
Yeah, man. But I wanted to thank you and share the fact that I'm going to get up on stage later today and either shit myself or make some people laugh. So,
gang, brother, and I hope it went good. Let's take another call here. Here we go. The hotline, as always, is 985-664-9503.
What's up, Theo? My name's Case. I've been seeing a girl for about a year and a half now. And
what's up, Kate? Thank you for calling. You've been seeing a girl for a year and a half. That's a long time these days. That's almost like a first marriage. Onward.
And we've been on and off, so we were never truly official. And I guess maybe that's partially my fault, and I could admit that. But basically what's happened here is about 3 weeks ago, I finally asked this girl to be my girlfriend.
There you go, boy. You sliding into that deal. Oh, you want that? Oh, would you be my boyfriend, my girlfriend? Let's hear more.
And she said yes, which is awesome. But my best friend let me know that he hooked up with this girl about a month and a half ago when we weren't officially together. So I'm dealing with this whirlwind of emotions. Feeling mad, feeling sad, feeling betrayed, and not really sure what to do. And it does seem like it was a mistake that they both regret, but I just feel hurt, man, and I'm trying to figure out how to move forward with this. So do you have any advice? Is the path to forgiveness the right way to go? Gang, you're the man.
Gang, bruh. I'm barely a man. By genetic coding only, man. The rest of me. It's hit or miss some days, dude, because I can be a real bad. This makes me think. Okay, when I was in school, when I was in high school, I was in love with this girl, and she had been seeing some guy before me that she lost her virginity to, right? And you know what I'm saying? Some girls, they lose their virginity, and then you come along and you take their West virginity. And that's usually, b-hole sex. That's the b-hole deal, is their West virginity. But anyway, that was just kind of a joke. But what I'm saying is this, man. I never got over the fact that she had already hooked up with some other guy before we got together. I never got over it. I always let it just fester on me, and just this weird jealousy. It gave me a thing to be angry about. And in the end, that shit was all about me, man. It was, it had nothing to do with her. This girl had just been living her life, and the guy that she'd hooked up with, I actually really liked that guy, and he was a friend of mine. And, when you're young, it's hard to not be jealous. But I would just say, fucking man, at least two people, at least you're in the right ballpark. Because if they've already hooked up, then you're really the missing link. It's like, oh, if you're friends with one of them and you like the other one, I think you could probably get past it pretty quick. I would just, it's really going to be it's going to be, the move is to get past it. It's going to be super macho of you. And you don't even need to tell them you forgive them. Just, you got to do it inside of yourself, I think. That's what I wish I would have done. Now, what I did, here's something else you could do. What I did was hold it against the girl, bring it up all the time when we were drunk, fight about it, cry about it in the front yard, cry about it in the backyard. You could go my route, and you might not be rewarded. I mean, it's a painful route to go. You end up laying on your back out in the street in the middle of the night, smoking menthols, bruh. Smoking them fucking, a pack of Winston menthols, limited editions. 110s, dude. You ever smoked a pack of 110 menthols, dog? Come on, boy. Dude, the cherry's so big on the end of those cigarettes, damn mosquitoes show up for it. That thing's wild. So I would say, yeah, man, I go that forgiveness route and be that big dog. Be the big dog. You still got the best friend. You still got the girl. So they hooked up one time. Oh, well. Do whatever you got to do. And if you got 2 years later, maybe if the guy, maybe years from now, the guy, you have an opportunity, maybe he breaks up with the girl and you hook up with her and then y'all are even if you want to, do it Games of Thrones style. But otherwise, I'd just let it ride, man. You just don't want to miss out on the opportunity for a good relationship with a girl because of some jealousy. Especially if your dude isn't like, still trying to holler at her. I think that's the move. But also, bro, fuck do I know, son. But gang, man, be good to yourself. What I was thinking was this, man. I'd love to know a lot of guys. We did this a couple of years ago. A lot of girls or guys, if you want to hit the hotline with this, we can put some of these calls in. The first time you touch somebody's crotch, of the opposite sex. Or it could also even be your own crotch, that OC. The first time, we had a woman a couple years ago, she called in, and the first time a guy touched her little, that little, you know what I'm talking about, that little Vietnamese hot pocket, you feel me? That vagina was in a refrigerator box, in an empty refrigerator box out back in the garage. And everybody has a secret, a sexy little story like that. You snuggled up in a refrigerator box with a young lover and they touch your crotch for the first time. Because, dude, I remember when I was young, bruh. My crotch was like the center of the universe, boy. I mean, they would have a falcon would come and land on my crotch at night and look out over the lands, Your crotch was the only thing. Remember during puberty, bro? Your crotch was the nucleus of the universe. You'd have people lining up outside of your crotch looking for, bread or milk and bread. Your crotch was everything. If a fly went by your crotch, you freaking shuddered a little bit. You had so much energy. All your hormones was crowded up in your crotch. Like there was, like 30 people stuck in a fucking church van or something. The energy, remember that? So hit the hotline, 985-664-9503. We'll put some of those FTCSs on, those first-time crotch stories on the next episode. And I don't do that to be gross, and I don't want you to leave a gross message. Please. But I do want you to just tell me about the feelings, the experience you had. The first time, where was it? I know a buddy of mine, the pizza delivery guy, had been drinking and he went off the road, crashed his car. And then he was in he had a little dementia and he walked away from the pizza vehicle. And my buddy and his girl, they snuck up in there on a second date and touched each other's junk out there off of Lee Road. So everybody has a neat story. Imagine that, the first time you get in a handful of that Judy, and they got a faint smell of fucking pepperoni in the air. I mean, Jesus Christ, bro. Is it Christmas? It should be. Come on. Yep, and you can hit the hotline 985-664-9503 for those FTCS, man, that first time crotch story. Onward.
Hey, man. Love your podcast, Theo. Love what you do.
Thank you, brother, and I appreciate you calling in today, man, and almost happy early Father's Day. I know that's coming up. I'm not sure if you're a father, but you could be.
I think you're just the greatest storyteller of this time.
Well, that's nice of you to say that, man. We don't do much to keep stories alive anymore. I feel like they're dying. I feel like a lot of people don't care what the story is in media these days. They just want to just put out something quick and easy, and even stories have become clickbait. And so I feel very blessed to have the gift to even tell a story. But thank you for the nice words. Onward.
But anyway, my name's Dylan. I'm from Florence, Alabama. I work for the railroad, and a lot of times I'm a conductor. So a lot of times we get on the train, we'll go to different places and stuff like that. One of the places we go is Memphis, Tennessee, or Memphis, as some people would call it,
Oh, yeah, and that's Memphis. And they used to have, if you drove outside of Memphis about an hour, you could go to Graceland, too. And they had a man out there doing Graceland. I guess, he got upset that Elvis had done it, and he said, well, damn, I'm going to do my own. And you go there at night. And me and two of my friends went there one night, and the man wasn't there. You could knock on his door, and he would take you on a tour museum of his own house. And it was all Elvis memorabilia. It's called Graceland 2. And what happened was we went there, and my friend got bit by a damn huge fucking dog, showed up and bit my friend. And it was a black dog, or black and brown. So I don't know. That doesn't, it's not, has nothing to do with it, but but yeah, we had to take my buddy to the hospital and all kinds of shit. So we never got to go inside. But anyway, let's hear more.
It's a pretty rough area there, man. And, it's one of those places where if you don't know where you are in Memphis, you might not need to stop at the gas station.
Oh, yeah, if you don't know where you are in Memphis, you might be dead. I don't know if you've seen 48 Hours, but a lot of that, the first 48, and it's about people in Memphis shooting each other. And then the cops kind of don't know who it is, but they know who it is. Let's hear more.
Some places there, they call the gas stations murder marts.
Damn. Well. The barbecue chips, boy, you better get your chips quick, son.
So, but anyway, I just want to know what you think. If you ever been to Memphis, what you think about the area and stuff like that. But anyway, gang, brother.
Gang, man. I think you have a lot of cities in America where they have, some of the crime problem has gotten a little bit out of hand in specific areas. Memphis is one of those places where you're getting a lot of crime. Places you see a lot of poverty. You have a lot of it. Places where you see also a lot of poverty in black community, you have a lot of crime, because over time it's been one of the more impoverished, and also they have a lot of gangsters and that sort of thing. And, you see a lot of those guys with, also, making like guns and murder and that type of stuff look cool. So I think that's something you probably have in Memphis, is a lot of that. In New Orleans they have it. Chicago has it. New Orleans, it seems to be getting real bad. Or just the newspapers say there is. If you go to NOLA.com, it's, it just seems to be something that happens in some of these communities where it's hard to, it's like, how do you eradicate this problem? I think some of it is time, as you get, as more opportunity, you have more opportunity in a lot of for different ethnicities in America, more opportunity to make money, than you'll see, more comfortable lifestyles where it won't be as much, as much crime and as much poverty. But yeah, I think sometimes the onus could also be taken on by some of these individual communities. It's like, it would be, it's like, how do you stop this kind of stuff within these communities? It's like, I would love, and maybe this does happen, and I just don't see it. It's like, how do you stop like black on black violence? Like, it's scary sometimes I remember growing up in Louisiana, it would be scary sometimes to have a black friend because a lot of black guys got murdered. And you just would read about it every day on the newspaper, see it on the news. Like, damn, man, that's scary. And then I think it gives a scary vibe to, I can't even imagine, dude, being a young black guy in some of those places would be scary. And look, I'm sure it's all types of ethnicities and it's all types of people and stuff. So I don't even know what I'm talking about. But I think over time, some of that will go away. But some of it's just like we gotta, like if we continue to champion this sort of like that, it's cool to be like a gangster and that kind of shit, then I don't know if that kind of stuff gets helped. Some of it's a culture thing, some of it's a like what's cool. But then also it might be fun as fuck to be a straight up gangster, bruh. Be running around at night playing, all the kids that, who have two parents and a little bit of cash, they're inside playing Modern Warfare. And the kids who's out there struggling, those dudes are out there fucking running, ducking over by the murder mart, trying to get through all 32 ounces before they go to that big gulp in the sky. The Lord, before they go see the Lord. It's the freaking murder mart. But all aboard, bruh. I get that bulletproof train, son. Get that bulletproof glass on the front of the train, all aboard. But yeah, Memphis, fuck, dude. First 48 gives a bad vibe to that city in the sense that everybody's shooting at each other over there, it always seems like. But yeah, I think sometimes that's a community problem where it's like, how do you, it's everybody's problem, but it's like within certain communities, you have some things that just after a while seems like, are these things going to go away? Or maybe they are going away and the media just keeps playing them up and acting like they aren't, I don't know. I wish I kind of knew more sometimes, but the fuck do I know, man? Let's hear another call. Here we go.
Hey, Theo. My name's Kyle Locke. I'm from Seattle, Washington.
What's up, Kyle? And I'll be up there in 2 weeks up there in Seattle. Onward.
I just wanted to talk to you about Bali, and me and my fiance are going there for our honeymoon in the end of July.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, it's exciting to hear that you guys have a honeymoon coming up and that you guys have each other. You guys are going to get to be over there, and it's really, I think, romantic. That's one thing I wish I'd have had when I'd have been there was just a romance. I didn't have a romance. They had a guy that brought breakfast over to my place in the morning, a little guy, a beautiful guy named Dewa, and he seemed hella chill and, good with the eggs, good with the omeletry, and he'd bring that through and roll through with that aguacates, them avos. So, gang.
Getting married on July 4th. So I just wanted to see what you thought about Bali, man. I know I heard a little bit on your last podcast. You said that it was like really good people and those dogs with the big ass balls. But yeah, man, if you could, let me know what the heck you really liked about it. Was it the food or the culture, the people? I'm ready to get my travel on. So gang, I love what you're doing over there. You're all open about your feelings and everything like that, and I appreciate that. So.
Well, thank you, man. I'm excited for you guys. You guys got engaged. You're getting married in July, man. You're heading over there. What a great. This is just going to be probably one of the best summers of your life, or not bad. It will be a great summer. It will be like an amazing summer. It'll be a special summer. That's what I mean. It'll be a special summer. It's summertime, man. Anything could happen in the summer. The sun gets hot. The sun puts on sunglasses. That's when the parties start. Girls, you'll see a girl, maybe she didn't even have any breasts before. Now she got a little bit of breast. Maybe your buddy even shows up with a couple of B coops, boy, on them. You know what I'm saying? Old breasty Jeff rolls up. You're like, damn. Jeff got them milky front pieces. And anything can happen. It's summertime. Sand castles. You know, somebody hides a bottle of fucking, raspberry schnapps out there in a fucking sand dune. And you guys getting liquored up, and you out there talking about witchcraft and touching each other's junk over there in the salt water off of Perdido Bay. Anything can happen. You know, you might be out there, they might have a girl who puts her mouth on the ground and suck a crustacean right out, one of them ditch crawfish right out the damn ditch bank. And who knew that would get you erect? Just watching a girl, just face take a crustacean, watching a girl just face take a damn shrimp right out of the earth with her lung power. It's beautiful. I mean, anything could happen. It's summer solstice, summer slam. Dude, wrestlers are excited. They're fucking slamming each other. I mean, it's summertime and anything can happen, man. But I'm glad that you guys are getting that marriage. You're going to be over in Bali. I recommend it. I recommend you stay in Canggu, or you get even more rural than Canggu. That's where I was. Seminyak seems a little too much going on. You can get out into, if you really want to be by the beach, just find a more rural place. I think as long as you get like a little villa or something, the more rural, the better. But the people are so kind, you're going to really be able to relax. I would try to keep my phone off as much as possible and just do your best to spend time together. I think it sounds like you guys are really going to knock it out of the park. You could rent scooters, but I also enjoy just getting, a little scooter and getting on somebody's back and holding on to somebody you don't know, taking a chance. It's the closest I've been to a successful relationship, really, was jumping on the back of a scooter, and I don't even know if it was a man or woman in the helmet, and just riding with them, taking a chance, man. So, but yeah, fresh fruit, just drink bottled water, that drill. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else. Like, I don't do a lot of nightlife or anything, so I was low key, up early. It was beautiful, man. It was beautiful. I don't think that you could go wrong. Let's take another call right here.
What's up, Theo? This is Bruce from Rochester, or Neck Country.
Rochester, that ROC, boy. Shout out to my boy Baggins, dude, who passed away a couple years ago. He OD'd over there by the Pizza Hut by the Days Inn. And, he was hopped up. I think he, was on them lewds and on that garbage plate, bro. He caught a thick garbage plate and couldn't get it down, bro. Gang, bro. Onward.
I just want to leave a comment on the podcast you had with Chris Lilly. When you were talking about you had a dream about him, I just wanted to mention that I actually also had a dream about you the night before.
Oh, okay. This is wild, man, because I've never been down this territory where I'm talking to a man that had a dream about me. And so I'm curious to see how this will go. Let's hear more, brother. Thank you for calling.
And I was in a comedy club, and it was very crowded. I was trying to make my way out of the club, and you were trying to make your way through the club, trying to go through the crowd there. There was a little break in the people, and so we met up.
Damn, this shit is getting erotic, huh? Or maybe not. Maybe it's just two guys passing in a club, about to find out.
In my dream. And when I tried to pass by you, you gave me a look, kind of a little bit of an attitude, a little huff and puff.
Okay. Then this sounds like me at the beginning of my comedy tour behind the scenes, man. I was hufflepuffing, man. I was getting slithering. And then I started to kind of really Gryffindor out towards the end. Onward?
Now, when I went by you, as if like I was in your way. And I know it was just a dream, but I do still feel like maybe you owe me an apology. And so I just wanted to put that out there. Listen, I understand where you're coming from if you don't apologize, but I felt like, maybe that was the right thing to do at this point. Gang, gang.
Huh. Apology for the subconscious behavior. You know what, man? I will apologize. It's I don't need to be right, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. I think I have had some of that behavior recently. I think I've been in a lot of fear about just things changing in my life and just not knowing how to act, and just worried about how people are going to think of me, and worried if I'm deserving of different opportunities, and just worried like if the world is like tricking me. Worried if the world is like just tricking me and saying, oh, well, here's something you're going to be able to get to do, but then we're just tricking you. You're going to wake up, or some harsh reality is going to show up and change things. And I know some stuff we don't have control over, but I could see myself probably if I was in my subconscious walking past somebody and giving them kind of a little bit of a, a harumph. So I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that, dude. I could have made the choice to be seeing you and just giving you a smile or giving you a thumbs up, or, no thumbs up, which is also a new thing a lot of people are doing. 2 hands out, closed fist, thumb tucked away inside the hand, no thumbs up. People are like, well, what in the hell's going on? But it's cool looking. All right, guy, no thumbs up. And that's like a Japanese thing. It's like the peace sign, but it's like newer than that. So I'm sorry I did that, man. And next time we see each other, keep your chakras open, because I'll make sure to, give you a little bit of an elbow, a fist bump or something hearty, something lovable, Maybe just, have a little baton. I'll do a quick little beat twirl, a little baton twirl, and show you a little bit of flair or something. Put a little pendant on your lapel, maybe something, something that says vote for Jerry or something, and then another pendant that says who the fuck is Jerry. So that way you kind of get the full deal. We had some Patreon questions. We're going to get to them next time, and this jet lag is literally shutting my face down. I don't think there's anything else to share at the moment. I just want to apologize to anybody. I know there's sometimes where people will reach out and like I try to get people tickets, and a lot of times I try to help, and a lot of times tickets are sold out to shows. Be careful. There's a lot of second and third party websites that will sell tickets at extraordinary prices. Those are not the regular ticket sites.